morning, and thank you for coming in very early.
Yes, exactly.
Myself and my co-host are really glad that you've decided to join us today for our maiden edition of our sport conference. Distinguished guests, esteemed sporting professionals, industry leaders, sport enthusiasts, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to the Business of Sport conference brought to you by BusinessDay. This conference is not just a conference, but it's a conference that is very timely. Nigeria is a country of over 220 million people, rich in culture, diverse in backgrounds, and sometimes divided in opinions. But if there's one thing that always keeps us together, it's sports. And that's why we brought us together today. It's a unifying factor. It knows no color, it knows no ethnicity, it knows no religion. The real question we want to ask today is, why haven't we fully tapped into the power of sports as a business, as a tool for potential growth and for national growth? I beg your pardon. The current administration, led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, made a bold move by separating sport from the Ministry of Youth and Sport and establishing the Sport Commission. This wasn't just a policy shift, it was a statement that says that sport must work in Nigeria. We all know the potential that we have here. The business of sports is the gold mine. It's one that we are yet to fully explore. And that's why we are here today. We've gathered together in the room some of the most important players in the industry. We have government officials. Some of them are still making their way here. We have private investors. We have sport professionals like you all that I see here today. We have experts in the building, and we're yet to tackle key areas that, address sport infrastructure, investment, commercialization, and talent development. The goal here is to go beyond conversations like we have in conferences, but to start to drive real growth. By the time we walk out of here today, we want solutions that will transform Nigeria. We want solutions that will create jobs and attract investment and position us as global contenders. My name is Elizabeth Musa, and it's my honor to serve you today as your MC alongside my co-host, Suj.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here with such an amazing lineup of industry experts, stakeholders, and distinguished speakers. My name is Suj, and I'm honored to be hosting this event here today alongside the stunning Elizabeth. Now, we all know Nigeria has an immense talent pool when it comes to sports. We've seen athletes shine, dominate all across the board on a global scale in fields like the Olympics, in fields like the World Cup, and beyond. But the question is, how do we turn that raw talent into a thriving sports industry that can contribute meaningfully to our economy? That's exactly why we're here today. We're not only going to highlight the problems, but we're also going to highlight the solutions and how we can tackle that and further accelerate change. I personally am looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to hearing what the industry leaders have to say and our stakeholders here have to say. Thank you so much for having, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you very much. And without taking any more of our time, I'd like us to please make welcome. What we like to do here is to, with a resounding round of applause, welcome the editor of BusinessDay, Mr. Tayo Fagbule, as he comes for the welcome address. Thank you so much.
Round of applause for him, please.
Thank you, Elizabeth and Suj. And my job is very simple, is to get out of the way. Thank you all for being here. Just while we were waiting, apologies also for starting late. Big apology. And those of you who were here on time, we thank you very much. While we were waiting, there's a little conversation going on the side on, look, what's the use of another conference on sports? This is our first conference, and I think maybe that's why we're getting into it. The reason why we're into it, I think, is there's a business aspect of sports that's not talked enough or amplified enough, and I think it's time to do that. And I think BusinessDay is the best platform to do that. How big is sports? last year's Olympics made $3 billion. Sorry, $3.3 billion actually. Half of the world watched it, 3 billion people. Last year, sports alone generated $159 billion in intellectual property. 39% of that went to broadcasting rights. The new digital formats coming up from cable TV, we're going on to streaming. We have new audiences, they're younger, fans are turning into followers because people move with Mbappe, they don't move with the club. Sports is the content that holds cable TV together. And it's unbundling because you now have streaming. Streaming is taking sports global. From basketball to baseball, it's all coming onto our devices. The only international sports really are football, EPL and La Liga. But NBA is coming, MPL is coming, they're all coming, all onto our platforms. But again, as Suj and Elizabeth said, there are 200 million of us, so you have the eyeballs. But not just eyeballs, but also the talent. And I'm sure everyone or someone here in this room has had that conversation. Imagine if all the foreign-born Nigerians, footballers, were to form a football team. I'm sure we would win the World Cup back to back to back for a couple of years. We'll be a force to be reckoned with. So whether it's participating in the sports or watching the sports, Nigeria is a force to be reckoned with. Finding that talent, running that talent, watching that talent, we all have it, which is why we've gathered into the room, not just people in football, not just people in administration, but people from athletics, you name it, judo. I just heard about sambo, never knew there was such a sport existed. And just basically trying to tap that potential. But above all, and I think that's what Business Day does, we bring all of these people into the room, get them to talk, converge them in the room, get them to talk, but also amplify, and then we'll keep talking about it. And I think that's where we can make a difference. And I hope that you all, by participating, whether on stage or with your questions or engaging, will help us bring out those insights that we can amplify beyond just this conference, just beyond today, and much, much forward. And we'll begin to see those fruits that we're all saying, and maybe one day bring the World Cup home. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Editor. Now we'll be going for a presentation on the international view of the business of sport. And this presentation is by Mr. Amaju Pinnick, immediate past member of the FIFA Council, but he will be represented by Mr. Temi-san Okomi, the group head of sport at Mega Electrics. Please put your hands together as it comes up. Thank you very much.
Good morning. First of all, let me quickly apologize on behalf of Amaju Pinnick. I'm a very, very pale imitation of the man, so you will forgive me. My name is Temi-san Okomi. I am the group head of sports, Mega Electrics. We own Classic FM, Beat FM, Niger FM, and Lagos Stocks across Abuja, Lagos, and Port Harcourt as well. I got this one yesterday, so forgive me if I'll try to make it as brief as I can. Chiefly because we all know the problem with sports. We really do. There's nothing anybody comes up here to say that will be new to anybody here. But like the editor has said, all we can do is just keep on amplifying it, hoping that one day soon, something will be done. More often than not, we find that one big problem with sports in Nigeria is I don't blame us, we tend to look at football as sports. Most of our examples are with football. When the editor was here, was talking about, we all talk about how we wish all the Nigerian-born players come to represent us. I don't think he meant in wrestling. It's always football, isn't it? And that's a big problem. Let's look at the Lagos City Marathon, for instance. 10 years they celebrated this year. It wasn't a big deal, was it? We didn't see all the razzmatazz that should be associated with that. And it's a gold status race as well. That's just next to platinum. In other words, Lagos City Marathon is just next to the Boston Marathon and the London Marathon and all that. But anyways, I'm used to criticizing, so let me just quickly go into the small thing that Amaju would have said I am thinking. And forgive me as well, I might look 21 with my flat stomach, but I'm actually over 50, so I forgot my reading glasses. Well, I'm honored to stand before you today, representing the former president of the Nigerian Football Federation, Amaju Melvin Pinnick, to discuss what we think is a vital topic that has the potential to transform the Nigerian sports landscape, the international view of the business of sports in Nigeria. Like I told you before, my name is Temisa Nokomi. Now, sports, like you all know, has always been a unifying force in this country. It brings people together across cultures, ethnicities, and socioeconomic backgrounds. But the country's passion for sports, despite all of that, the industry remains massively underdeveloped. The sporting ecosystem is laughable. It's underutilized, immense potential waiting to be tapped. We've been waiting to tap into this sports ecosystem for too long, for way too long. I remember when Honorable Nduka Irabo was the LMC chair, and Eimba came to play MFM, if I'm not mistaken, in Lagos here. I mean, Eimba, we all know Eimba. I mean, aside Kano Pillars, in Kano, Eimba is probably the most supported club in this country. Eimba, and we know what they've done. So I was at the stadium, I was the LMC, what they call them then, delegates? Yeah. So I said to the guy from Eimba, I can't remember his name, "Oh boy, this your jersey is fine, oh. Can I buy one?" I said, bros, now wow. Wait first. I said, no, get website. I said, wait. So he went and brought a Ghana Must Go. And he brought out the jersey. So I said, so if person won't buy jersey now, you carry Ghana Must Go everywhere. So that's what we say, bro. So you see the sporting ecosystem, and that's what Eimba. Imagine Ikorodu United. Probably nobody will even look at you. So the sporting ecosystem is massively underdeveloped. Now, the current state of sports in Nigeria. Nigeria has a rich sporting history. A notable achievement in football, athletics, basketball, and to a large extent as well, wrestling, cricket, rugby, and a few others also growing in the country. But despite these successes, we still face numerous challenges in that industry, including number one, and not the least of it, a lack of infrastructure. Now, inadequate, proper, and standard sporting facilities, equipment, training programs hinder the development of Nigerian athletes from leveling up with the best sporting talents across the world. If you remember in 1984, when Peter Konyegwachi, was it flyweight? Moses, do you remember? The Olympics. Was it flyweight Peter Konyegwachi? When he trashed the American, it was obvious to all of us. Yet Peter got a silver medal, which we all knew. It was a disgrace. But the American, somebody remind me of his name, Tony something, he went on to have a successful pro career. Peter, not so much. Not so much. There was a time in this country when boxing was huge. Lasisi and Jerry Oborojudu, was it? When Jerry said Lasisi was using jazz, when he punched me, I saw 4 of him. It must have been jazz. And I remember telling my dad then, I'm not thinking of jazz, not blue. But I'm trying to say that it was huge. We followed them. What happened afterwards? Matter of fact, Lasisi and Jerry, I think they had another fight in Las Vegas. We didn't even report it. So the sporting ecosystem infrastructure has always been horrible, to be honest. Bash at the height of his career, cruiserweight, it was the champ. Sadly, what happened afterwards? He's been chasing a dream for a long time. It's never going to happen for Bash. We all know that. But he's chasing it. And it's because there's no infrastructure, no ecosystem for him. Insufficient funding as well, my goodness. Now, limited financial resources restrict the growth of sports in Nigeria, making it difficult to attract and retain top talent. And at that time, I was talking about with the local league. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I hope I get this right. Nduka Arabo told me then that to successfully run the league for one season. What year was this? Can anybody remember when Nduka Arabo was LMC chair? Perhaps 8, 9 years ago, I think. 15, 16 years ago? Oh, that's a long time. 2015, right? About then. He said to me that to successfully run the league, they needed about 300 million for the year, for the season. That was what, 7, 8 years, 10 years ago? And it was a hassle for them. Now that's just to run the local league. I imagine to myself, how much will it be for a club to run a successful season, home and away, at the continent? Massively, massively underfunded. We see with the Wrestling Federation as well, Honorable Gali. More often than not, the man uses his money and his financial contacts to get wrestling moving. And my goodness, the job he has done with that federation is brilliant. But do we know about it? Maybe aside us in the business, not many know about it. So funding is a big problem. Poor management as well. Ineffective management and corruption within sporting governing bodies undermine the development of Nigerian sports. Because you see a sports trying to eventually hit a mark. All of a sudden, factions come through. We've seen it in Nigerian football. Even with the man I'm representing here, we saw his own election as well. The case and the hassle with Chris Giwa. We've seen it in the MBBF, Musakida and the other faction. It's normal, isn't it? It's become the norm for us. And you have to ask yourself, if you're an investor in this business, a private investor, would you want to put your money in that? It's almost impossible. It's almost impossible. Again, forgive me. I was told about this thing yesterday, so. Now, the international community recognizes Nigeria's vast sporting potential. And I asked him this one. I asked Amaju, you've been there. SWAL FIFA executive member. You're still with FIFA because there's this possibility you might get. I mean, once you're there, you're there. Do they really want us to grow? Really? And he said to me, look, there are loads of international sports organizations, brands, and investors ready to. Some of them are even involved. But some of these things I've listed is a problem for many of them. Now, many Nigerians are household names in different sports. The current world record holder in the women's 100 meters hurdles is a Nigerian, Oluwatobiloba Amusan, the current and previous African Footballer of the Year in the male categories, and Nigerians, Ademola Lookman and Victor Osimhen, the greatest, in my view, player on the continent in the women's category, perhaps. Maybe Messi Akidi might have a say, but perhaps for all time, arguably for all time, Asisa Doshoala is a Nigerian. You can even say the same for table tennis, Aruna Quadri. So the international communities are not alien to the fact that Nigeria is a sports-loving country and we've got the talent. We just have to do so much more to remain relevant and in the consciousness of the international audience. So what's more, we ask, I'm assuming with the topic we're asking, can the international audience do for us? To further benefit Nigerian sports, they can invest in our sporting infrastructure, but they will have to collaborate with Nigerian authorities to develop modern sporting facilities, training programs, and equipment. I remember one time FIFA gave us a grant. I don't remember the tenure. And we heard that no, that grant is supposed to be for XYZ. But it was used for ABC. But to be honest, the ABC was used for, it was important. So even if FIFA gives you a grant that says, develop sporting football in Bauchi, but your cricketers are going to a World Cup and they have no funds. If you divert some of that to them, Is that wrong? He said, so we have a problem here with that one. But the international sporting community, they can invest, they do invest, but they have to deal with our sporting administrators. What they can do and what they do is provide capacity building programs. They offer training and development opportunities for Nigerian coaches, administrators, and athletes to enhance their skills and knowledge. And they can help us in promoting Nigerian sports globally. You can utilize their international media platforms to showcase Nigerian sports, attract new fans, sponsors, and investors. Now, they can support grassroots development as well, which is what we should do as well. Focus on developing sporting programs at the grassroots level, engaging with local communities and identifying talented young athletes. And of course, they can foster partnerships and collaborations. Talking about grassroots development, when I did my youth service in Zamfara, 1998, and that was after like 7 years in university. Let's not talk about that one, Sha. And there was I was the NYSC goalkeeper. I was in batch B. And if you remember back then, Zamfara was not, Yerima was just introducing Sharia law. Nobody wanted to go to Zamfara. So batch B for NYSC is usually smaller number than batch A, isn't it? Back then, I don't know about now. So we're probably about 300 in camp. So I was NYSC goalkeeper. Not saying much. There must have been 200 men in there, and I was the one goalkeeping. But at the end of our coach was a player for Yerima Strikers. And Yerima Strikers were basically a grassroots club as well. I think they were in the amateurs. And I went with them just to go watch. First of all, see them train. It was sandy. It was sand. I lived the coach for about a week or two in Gusau before I was posted to the hinterland. And most of these footballers, especially in that grassroots level, a great meal for them was bread, beans, and tea. And even then I used to wonder, how can you? How? But in these conditions, we still get people coming through. So imagine if we invested just a bit more into the grassroots. Just imagine it. I don't know if I'm deviating from what Amaju would have said, but forgive me. But I'll conclude now that the international view of the business of sports in Nigeria is one with vast potential. There's plenty of opportunities for all of us, them and us. By working together, we can unlock the full potential of Nigerian sports. We can create a vibrant, sustainable, and globally competitive industry. Now, urging the international community to join us on our journey is a bit difficult because if we are not walking the walk, why should they walk it for us? What's in it for the international community? Why should they invest? The English Premier League that we rightfully mentioned, before 1992, I think they were barely making £10 million a year, I think. By the time, because I used to work for High TV, we were the ones that were rivaling Moses Praise's DSTV back in the day. And I remember when High TV won the EPL rights in Nigeria, I remember. I think at that time, DSTV was paying about $18 million for all of Africa. That's just broadcast rights for the EPL. When we came in, Tony Sebeb ensured that they removed Nigeria from the rest of Africa, and we paid $25 million for those rights, and it wasn't the full rights. 3 years later, when ITV was going to bid again, those rights in 3 years had gone from $25 million that ITV paid to $120 million. This was in 2011. God forbid what the rights would cost right now. So in closing, I like the fact that the organizers have looked for the international, trying to see the topic again, international community's view on all of this. But if we do not clean house, nobody's going to rent it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Timisan. Solid gems dropped by him there. And I agree with him in the points that he made about the sports ecosystem in Nigeria needing strong development. I just need to add a very brief fact. Let me give you guys a small fact. So we can bridge into other sports, like you said, aside the football, because football in Nigeria is one thing that everybody really looks out for, everybody really focuses on. And I would say that there are other areas as well that we can develop on, be it cricket, wrestling. And I myself am an avid lover of American football. And I strongly believe that, yes, there's a large audience for American football in Nigeria, and there's a strong talent for American football in Nigeria as well. One of the facts about that is that in the NFL, amongst African countries, Nigeria has the highest number of players with Nigerian heritage. And I strongly believe that that is a market that we can strongly tap into and develop right here in the grassroots. So back on the agenda for today, I would like to introduce Mr. Emeka Enyadike. He'd be taking the keynote address. He's the Executive Director, Digital Sports Africa, and he'll be joining us virtually.
And while we await him, because he'll be joining us virtually, we're talking on the business of sports, so we just have a quick announcement. You can grab a copy of the BusinessDay newspaper today. There is an article, very interesting article, that speaks on the Nigerian sports industry. You should take a look at it. You should read it. It's very in-depth analysis that will leave you with lots to think about, lots to,
Think pieces,
yeah,
exactly.
think pieces, a lot to chew on. So please grab a copy of the BusinessDay newspaper. You can meet with our BusinessDay staff outside. They could also give you a copy of the paper, and then you find more information there. Thank you very much. Please put your hands together as we welcome again Mr. Emeka Enyadike. Mr. Emeka will be joining shortly. We have slight issues with connectivity, but he'll be joining very shortly. So while we await Mr. Emeka Enyadike joining us virtually, we want to ask if we have any questions. All right, we have him. But network seems a little bit, wow. Mr. Emeka. Okay, we don't have his.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. You can go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thanks for having me. I can see everybody. Yeah, can you hear me?
And Claire.
You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear, Mr. Emeka. All right, Mr. Emeka, can you hear us? We can hear you, so you can please go ahead. You have the floor. Can you see us?
Yes, I can.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. It's a pleasure to be able to join you all. Would have been great to be. I can hear you very well. I can see you.
Mr. Emeka, please go ahead. We are all set to hear from you this morning.
Thank you. The topic, I was given was to look at the potential for profit, transforming Nigerian sports into a thriving industry. And as someone who's Nigerian, I have spent a great deal of my life involved with sports in Nigeria, and so being away doesn't change nothing from how I see Nigeria, and I see the opportunities in Nigeria, and I see to do to be able to create a more viable sports ecosystem. So I'm going to look at three key areas that we need to look at in Nigeria if we're going to get and move forward in Nigeria. The first one is infrastructure. And infrastructure deals with facilities, deals with stadia, deals with just about everything that we require to create that environment that we need. The second one is talent. And the last one is, of course, commercialization and monetization. So everyone looks at Nigeria and the world is marveled at the kind of talent that comes out of Nigeria. And even more shocking is just the sheer size of Nigerian born or Nigerian diaspora born athletes representing other countries, competing in various sports. And someone earlier talked about the NFL, talked about American football. I mean, apart from Americans and apart from people from probably American Samoa, Nigerians have over time the highest number of athletes from a single country who have played in that league, and there's over 200 who have featured there, and that's huge for something that we don't play in Nigeria. Except, of course, recently there have been attempts to create flag football and other formats. So the question then now is, how are we able to produce this number of athletes? Of course, there are a lot of them that were born in environments where they have the facilities to create and produce this. But the one thing for us to look at is there is something in Nigerian DNA that is clearly built for sports. Nigerians are built for sports. We are tremendously talented people, even without the infrastructure, without the facilities. We're able to compete. And you find a kid that is born in Nigeria and has never played any sports, goes abroad at the age of 10 and excels, goes abroad at the age of 18 and excels. Christian Okoye, who was probably the first Nigerian to make big impact in the NFL, was already over 20 when he went. And he was already competing for Nigeria in discus and shot put when he was then converted into an American football player. He's a running back. He became known as the first Nigerian knight and tormented people with the Kansas City Chiefs in the NFL in the 90s. So if we go back now to the facilities that we need, post-colonial Nigeria inherited a lot of sporting culture with facilities created all around the country, especially in schools. But there has been a massive decay. We almost do not care. And then we build stadium infrastructure. We build stadiums sometimes almost without knowing whether we need them. The amount of money spent in Nigeria to build stadiums, sometimes they are built as vanity projects by governors, not necessarily because there is a need for it, or sometimes they are built because they want to host the National Sports Festival. Or in the case of the federal government, we built a stadium like Abuja Stadium because of the All Africa Games. The question is, why do we need to build facilities? Do we need to build facilities because we want to host events? Or do we want to build facilities because we want to create an environment where athletes can be developed? And so the question is if we do an audit of all the infrastructure that we have in Nigeria, especially the stadiums, how many of them are being put into use? And how many of them actually serve the purpose for which they were built? And you find that a lot of them are just lying there. There isn't any attempt at renovation or revamping them or even upgrading them, because I can tell you quite clearly, the stadiums you have in Nigeria, maybe not more than 2 of them meet the threshold for what you call the modern stadium today, and that's why we struggle even to host national games. So you have the stadium in Uyo, obviously, that seems to be our new stadium. But even then, how many events happen there? The stadium is just there. So we should be investing a lot more money in the community, creating facilities where, based on where people live and accessibility. When I grew up in Port Harcourt, we had playgrounds spread around the old city, and they were numbered number 1 field, number 2 field, number 3 field. We even had a swimming pool where the basketball court, which is now converted into a mini basketball stadium. So in order for us to create sustainable infrastructure, we have to look at what are the events that we are doing, what's happening, who is going to use them. Your stadium is there, of course, Aqua United plays there, but how many games, how many fans go there? Probably you. Even when the Super Eagles play, it is, the gates are thrown open. And then, of course, there isn't an attempt to look at what do we do when we build the stadium. Can we then monetize it, either by way of creating events, creating ticketing, naming rights. Uyo Stadium is named after a politician, Godwin Akpabio, Godswill Akpabio. The National Stadium in Abuja is named after Moshood Abiola. Whereas lots of Nigerians support Arsenal and the rest, and they will tell you about Emirates Stadium. But in tiny Rwanda, they built an arena which has been hosting the Basketball Africa League for years. Last year, it hosted the African Table Tennis Championship. It hosted the FIFA Congress. Last year, it hosted the FI Congress for motor racing. And then, of course, we know that there is an attempt to build a Lagos arena, which will be good because this is now a private sector thing. So the question is, at what point do we find the point of departure where we can create stadiums and arenas for the business of sports with all of the bells and whistles, things like hospitality suites, create an arena that when it's not hosting sports, it is hosting music and other events. Because the stadium is a business venture. It is not a vanity project. It's not something, Ogun State has stadiums every corner, but how much of it is being used? In fact, the stadium that is the most used in Ogun State is the Remo Star Stadium, which is a private stadium. And then you have, I think, Delta State also. went on a building spree. The idea is that, okay, they want to have stadiums in all of these things. Yeah, a few times they hosted the African Women Championship and so on and so forth. But the question is simply, how much of those stadiums serve the community? Sometimes they are too big. You can't create more of those facilities within schools. In America, all over Europe, you have stadiums, you have sporting facilities that are as big as some of the league stadiums. And what that does is they are used for development and of talent, and they're used for creating competitions and what have you. When stadiums are built in Europe, America, and everywhere, they are built as commercial ventures. They go a source for funds from banks, from venture capitalists, from different platforms, and they create a business case for the facilities to be used as much as possible. Uh, and that is how development of talent, uh, comes into effect. We have a scenario where we believe that the only way we can create very good athletes, sprinters, and the rest is if they go to America. Whereas if we had this infrastructure in the schools, a very worrying trend is most of the universities in Nigeria don't have good facilities. They only start building them when it's looking for money to build them when they have to host Nuga, for instance, or Natsega or Nipoga. I was in Jos recently, and they're supposed to host Nuga. They have the facilities. Lagos hosted Nuga recently. What is the quality of facility that they have? They have between University of Lagos, Lagos State University, and all the other higher institutions, Yabatek. These are facilities that are not fit for purpose. They could and should have it. In the US, the NCAA generates as much money as most of the mainstream, the major leagues. They create enough money because we're in March now. It's March Madness in America. So when you see the kind of infrastructure that is used for those tournaments, it's huge. A lot of the talent that we have coming out of Nigeria, the football players, the global stars, Osimhen and the rest of them, some of them started competing in Nigeria. Good enough with football, they don't need the best facilities to thrive. They could even play barefoot, and then when they go out, they excel. But should we actually create more quality in the grassroots, in the communities, then we have the opportunity to be able to do that. So when you talk about trying to create a business around sports in Nigeria, infrastructure is huge. And then we need to have an audit and look at what we have. And then of course we have a massive reliance on diaspora born talent today. We were all cheering when the Nigerian team was excelling at the basketball tournament in the Olympics, but the bulk of that team came from America and elsewhere around the world. And the question is simply, do we have good basketball players here? Sure, we do, but we don't have good structures for leagues. The timetables are not kept. The question then also is, do we really know how many people play sports in Nigeria? Do we know how many girls play basketball? Do we know how many boys play basketball? Do we know how many talented players? Many years ago, when we were winning the under 16, under 17 World Cup, I always said to myself, like, how come we never heard about these athletes? Because in America, in Europe, and everywhere, if there is an athlete or a player who suddenly wins the Wimbledon or wins whatever, there is a record of when they were discovered and how far they will go. I mean, Roger Federer, I knew already before he even went to the men's circuit. So the question is, we need to know how we are able to build a platform for talent discovery in Nigeria. We need to know what tournaments are required, because right now, as it is, we generally run federations in Nigeria that all they do is organize tournaments. There isn't a development framework that says some local government in Taraba State, is producing sprinters or producing long distance runners, or there is something happening there, and there is a talented player that we need to do. So the long and short of it is that we need to have data. We need to have records. We need to know how many coaches we have in this country. We need to know how many nutritionists we have. We need to know how many physiotherapists we have that are involved in sports. We need to know if there is a talented kid somewhere that could potentially be an Olympic hopeful in 8 years, in 10 years. We need to put a structure in place that allows us to document everything that happens within the sports space, because it is the only way that we can create the information that allows us to speak to sponsors, speak to. I mean, Temison was reading out some things about the international view. The international view of sports. I have been around the block when it comes to sports. I have been working with EuroLeague basketball, Bundesliga. And the last 3 years, I have been working with FIFA around the projects and development across the world, around communications, around media. So the conversations are there. We speak, and there's a massive respect for the talent that we have. But then there's always the question of why are we unable to rise above a certain level? Why are we not living up to our potential? No one points you to what we did in the 90s. But the reality is that we have talent. I mean, American football, we don't play it, but there's so many Nigerians doing well. We had people like Sheun Adego and Simidele Adego who pioneered the Nigeria's participation at the Winter Olympics. That tells just if we are deliberate, if we can create the environment, then we can get it. But the missing link is that whilst Nigeria produces a great deal of world-class athletes, a lot of talent, we have, there's like scouting programs, coaches, scouts coming from Europe for football, for everything else. What we lack in Nigeria is the quality which is required at the administrative and the management level. We do not have that. Many years ago, there were some adverts placed in the newspapers in Nigeria for officials to be employed in the National Sports Commission, in the Sports Ministry. And the biggest qualification that they put there was they must have a degree in physical education. People who have degrees in physical education in Europe and America, they teach in schools. They don't work in the sports bodies. They teach in schools. They teach in primary schools, they teach in high schools. What you have today everywhere around the world are people who have gone to school to study sports management, sports administration. Sports is a massive industry, an industry that generates billions of dollars. The global sponsorship was pegged at I think about 73 billion in 2022, and it was projected to rise to 150 billion in 2032, after 10 years. Just 1 year, as of 2023, it had crossed the $100 billion. an industry that generates that is definitely in the top 10 in the world, probably top 6 industries in the world. And so everywhere around the world, the people who run sports, I'm not talking about the political people who contest election to be presidents and what have you, even those also, but the people at the operating level, they are people who have gone to school to study sports management and all the various, even sports law, even the finance, there is specialization that is happening now. But we don't have that in Nigeria. We have politicians, we have cronies, we have these people put in there. And until when we talk about talent, the talent that is missing in Nigeria is the talent in administration and management. That is where we need to do that. We need to bring in people in that space. So the two key things that we need today to change everything about sports in Nigeria. Number one is human capital development. We need to retrain the people who work in sports commission, ministries, federations, leagues across board. We need to create, number two, we need to create commercial structures around these entities, which means that our clubs, whether they're football clubs, they're basketball clubs, they're handball clubs, there needs to be a policy framework that makes it mandatory for them to be corporate entities where there are commercial considerations. And then you have a scenario where they can attract people from the industry. A few years ago, God bless his soul, the Nigeria Football Federation employed the head of marketing from an advertising agency, the late Edoze Enemo. That was a massive move. And the period he ran things there, before he passed away through an accident, he was a key player. A key player. So nobody's saying that that we have to get rid of the people who are there. No, we shouldn't. But they need to be retrained. They need to understand that sports is a business, and there has to be a mindset shift. A serious mindset shift, which has to occur. Because right now, if you look at the way sports is, funding and all of that is like almost on an 80-20 basis, where like the burden is like 80% on government, 20% on the private sector. That's the reason why you have all the federations in Abuja. Nigeria is the only place where you have all the federations sitting in the capital city. Of course, in some countries, the capital city is also the commercial city, like in the UK, where London is both. But take Germany and America, for instance. You will never find any sports federations in Washington or in Berlin. They are all in New York. The NBA, all of those guys, NFL, they all have their offices in New York. The Bundesliga, and they're all in Frankfurt and Cologne. They're closer to where the money is. But because we are more and more dependent on government, we want to be sitting right next to them. So when we talk about monetization and commercialization, the key drivers for global commercialization of sports are broadcasting, branding, ticketing. But these are neither there or not there. Yes, previously we had this massive deal with the MPFL and SuperSport. Obviously they have Star Times now, but at the level compared to countries like South Africa and Tanzania and Egypt, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, we should be more, but we are not. We're not. Ticketing is almost a problem, because even when the Super Eagles, as big a brand as they are, when they play in Uyo, the governor declares free gates. Play in Abuja, it's free gates. It shouldn't be so. This is probably the biggest brand in Africa. People should pay. You have to do marketing. Many years ago, when I was on the board of River State Football Association, we convinced the NFF at the time to bring all the games to Port Harcourt. And then we hosted all the qualifiers for 2002 World Cup. There wasn't one game where people got in free. They were sold out, and people paid for those tickets. Today, many institutions in sports, whether they're clubs, or they struggle with finding broadcast partners who will pay them. They struggle with finding sponsorship. But there is something that is happening in the world today, and that is the digital transformation and impact of fan engagement and the growth of digital platforms. Because when you don't have your games on TV, broadcasters are not coming in, people are able to stream their own platforms, stream on their own platforms. You know, YouTube and Twitch have become massive platforms because when you are able to put your content out there, the platforms pay. Facebook pays, X pays, TikTok pays. But you have to first build the platforms. But what do we have? In Nigeria, we still have journalists and just about anybody is given the role to manage those platforms, whereas these have become specialized roles where we need to have specialists running them. Fan engagement is something where you go out and use the radio and try and drum to engage with fans. Today, these social platforms bring you much closer, bring you much closer to the fans. We need to invest there because social media is cooking and there is only one internet, which means that when you wake up from sleep and you are a fan of shooting stars, the idea that the majority of the people in Nigeria support one team or the other in England is not by accident. It's because those clubs and those leagues have invested heavily on social media. So we can complain that, okay, yes, people are not watching our league because, or our games or our sports because there is Premier League games or there is NBA or there is something else happening. The truth of the matter is that they shouldn't be dominating our thinking. Because on WhatsApp groups, even WhatsApp groups set up to discuss Nigerian sports. Half the time they want to discuss about Premier League. They identify each and every one with one sport or the other. And that is where we are. So we are competing with them because they have taken the younger generation. You find Nigerians, the husband is an Arsenal fan. He makes his wife an Arsenal fan, his children, and he buys the shirts for them every year and they wear it, they take photographs. They even take photographs during Christmas. So so that is it. And in closing, I just want to say that we have an opportunity, a massive opportunity to reset. And for us to reset, we have to invest more in capacity building in terms of human capacity building. We have this scenario where, my company, we work on a project which we call the Africa Football Digital Benchmark. And recently we published the top 100 most followed clubs in Africa. And in that ranking that we did, which is a globally accepted platform, the biggest clubs in Nigeria, Shooting Stars, Kano Pillars, Rangers, Bendel Insurance, none of them make the top 100 in Africa. The most followed club in Africa is a club that's not even in the Premier League or in the second division, which is Vandreza FC. They're number 17 in Africa. Then, of course, the highest ranked MPFL club is Enyimba at number 60. And then, of course, the other clubs that appear there are in the 80s and 90s, Remo Stars, Rivers United, and all of that. Shouldn't be so. Al Ahly of Egypt, all the top South African heavyweights, and the clubs, surprisingly, Tanzania has 3 clubs in the top 11. That is the state where we find ourselves. Where we find ourselves. So the question then should be, where do we go from here? We have to move in a direction that allows us. So we can have this conversation every day, but if we don't tell ourselves the truth, we are not doing enough. We are sleeping and waiting for handouts when we have all the resources. Afrobeats is not bigger than football or sports in Nigeria. But imagine if they had a ministry of Afrobeats or ministry of music, or they had a federation, they will stall. But they have taken the bull by the horn and they've created massive followership, and they've monetized it because all the money is in the social platforms. Because of time, I'll just stop here. But thank you very much, and I hope that you have a great celebration out there. And hopefully next time I'll be with you guys in Lagos. But thank you so much, and sorry if I sound a bit hard of Nigeria, but I love my country, and I want us to be successful. Everything that I've achieved globally, I started in Nigeria, so I am very happy that we have these conversations, and I hope that it changes things.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Emeka Adike, the Executive Director of Digital Sport Africa. Please, can we once again put our hands together for him? If there's something I really took out from his keynote address was, he did mention how important it is to engage the grassroots, do better with the grassroots if we're truly going to wake up this sleeping giant that sports is. But as we go forward in our agenda today, I'd like to make welcome for our next panel. This is always one of the exciting parts of the conferences. So this panel is on building a sustainable sport industry in Nigeria with respect to investment, foreign and local investment. And on this panel, we've got some truly remarkable individuals. And I'll start by introducing in no particular order. I'll be introducing Honorable Seun Fakorede. He was the Commissioner for Youth and Sport, Oyo State, from 2019 to 2023. But before it comes up, I'd like to do a little bit of introduction. Dr. Seun Fakorede is a distinguished leader, entrepreneur, and advocate for youth empowerment. In 2019, he made history as Nigeria's youngest commissioner for youth and sport in Oyo State, where his exceptional leadership earned him the role of executive advisor on youth and sport to the Oyo State governor. Is a United Nations Ambassador for Peace, and he founded Home Advantage Africa, a non-profit focused on social development and youth advocacy. His achievements include being named the 2022 Politician of the Year by One Young World and receiving the Future Awards Prize for Governance in 2020, and also being honored with the Royal African Young Leadership Award by the Oni of Ife. Please make him feel welcome as he comes up. Thank you very much. Also on this panel, joining him on this panel is Moses Praise. He's a TV host, sportcaster at SuperSport. I'll do a little bit of introduction as it comes up. He's a multi-award-winning sportcaster who works with Africa's premier sports broadcaster, which is SuperSport, and he has covered top sporting events such as AFCON, Euros, FIFA World Cup, and others. He's currently the host of SuperSport's Corner and SuperSport's only multi-sport magazine show and Africa Sport On, and a weekly Premier League themed show called Social Corner. Moses is an influencer and model, as you can see. His career has featured top designers like Vance Carey, David Wedge, and so many others. He's also a very fantastic event compere and MC, and brought on display as the host and co-host of countless events such as Lagos Fiesta, Access Bank Lagos City Marathon, and Africa's biggest street party, Calabar Carnival. And he has hosted this for over 10 years, as well as being the host for the inaugural Microsoft AI Tour Lagos. Please make him welcome Mr. Moses Pray. 20 years of experience. He has successfully handled high-profile litigation and arbitration cases, earning accolades such as being named a rising star by Legal 500 and receiving recognition from Chambers Global Guide. His expertise spans across corporate shareholding disputes, capital market regulations, commercial contract, and so many others. Without wasting any more of our time, please make Olabisi Makonjola feel welcome. And to moderate this panel today is Anthony Lebem. He's a sports editor at BusinessDay Media, and he's been quoted on Give Me Sports, The Sun UK, and other top British websites. So he's very, very good. Please make him welcome as he comes off stage. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's on now. Hello, everyone. It's good to have you, and welcome to our, maiden edition of, Business Day, Sport Business. A lot have been said, and for me, as a passionate sport person, I remember growing up. Those days, my dad used to trek from Aguda to stadium to watch Eyimba play, and those days there was nothing like insecurity. Hello. So there's nothing like insecurity, and 3SC, Rangers of Enugu is like, more gradually those teams started, going down. And that time, school football, like inter-house sport, I remember Akim Olajuwon was from my school, Obele Community High School. Those days they used to come to school, scout for players, scout for talent, but all those things are gone, and we are asking ourselves, what do we need to do? We have a lot of bundle of talents. Like, it was mentioned earlier. If you look at the NBA, a lot of Nigerian descent are there. Talented. We have talent in Nigerian sport, boxing, athletics, not only in football. Our focus mostly is on football. Yeah, it's the big thing, but again, we can't just neglect, other sports. So with me here, to discuss this, and to talk more on the potential. We've talked about the issues, but more about the issues and the solutions, because we need to grow our sports, and that's the only way we can do it, because in EPL alone, about 7.1 billion was generated in 2023. That's huge. And I tried to look at, okay, our NPFL, how much have they generated? You can't even find anything. It's so sad. So my first question, we are supposed to have Honorable Elegbele, but he's having issues joining us, and so we'll just go with our distinguished guest here. So my first question goes to Honorable Fakorede. I looked at your CV as the youngest commissioner, and how can, look at what we've just mentioned, how can Nigerian states create an enabling environment for sports to drive economic growth and job? Because all of the time, it's like, there are a lot of issues in Nigerian sports, a lot of infrastructure, regulation, and all of that. So my question is, how can Nigerian states create that enabling environment? Because I was talking to somebody recently, we were talking about the Abuja Stadium. I was there about 2 years ago to cover his work, and you see grasses everywhere. And he said, give us these facilities, the private sectors. A lot of activities will be going on there. Government has no business. And you look at Abuja Stadium, there's nothing to write home about. So how can we create this enabling environment, sir?
Okay. Thank you, and good morning, everybody. So I think one very, very important thing that the government needs to do is actually to redirect, our focus towards certain things. As a person, I believe that the government should have no business doing business. And, if we really want, sports to actually thrive, especially in Nigeria, we see the way things are working. Outside Nigeria, if you look at, Europe, you look at America, you see how, their sports is actually growing. What are they doing right? And it's simply because of the fact that they understand, the business, of sport. There is sport. There is also, the business, of sport. And the business of sport is actually what sustains, sports, itself. You don't expect, in Nigeria today, in a lot of, states, it's the government that is actually primarily financing, sports. Look at, Oyo states. Look at, the Continental, 3SC, look at, Rangers FC, look at a number of these. It's only, a few of these, clubs that are actually being run by private, entities. And, in a number of, these, states, the sports infrastructure, there is actually, being, run by the government, which, I feel that sometimes, a lot of times, is not always sustainable. And that's why you see, you made mention of Abuja, that grass growing everywhere. It's because there is no intentional attention given to those facilities. So I believe that when we get to that stage where we could actually give these instruments, we could actually give this private, individuals or entities to run, or better still have, some sort of, PPP, arrangement where, it's a private, public, partnership, people come together with the government to say, okay, let us manage this. I think that is the, time that we can actually see the best of, these sports and then the best of these, activities. Because look at the number of sports. The reason why you would see football as like perhaps the most popular sports in Nigeria or Africa today is because, what does it really take, to play football? Sometimes you don't even need the best of, stadia. Sometimes all you need is a flat surface. Even, a number of, grassroots, football, the pitch is always, quite undulating, and people still find it easy to play, that way. But there are some sports that you actually need, if you really want to compete at the best, of levels, there are some sports that you need, very, standard infrastructures. And how do you have that? If, you don't have, a stadium, you don't have, I remember in 2019 when I was appointed, commissioner, and, I looked at our stadium, in the stadium that we have, in Oyo State. We have the Leko Salami Sports Complex. We have, that's Adamasingba. We have the Liberty, stadium. And, when I went on tour on this stadium, there were nothing to write home about. And, you expect that you have, the best of athletes from this kind of stadium. It's not possible until, the governor, magnanimously approved the remodeling and upgrade of the Adamasingba Stadium. And that's why we still have, something that we can actually manage, today. Because it's not, of course, it's not at its best, yet, but of course we could still, manage it. So I believe that we should get to that level where, government should have no business doing business, but creates enabling environments for businesses to thrive. And I think, we'll get it.
Wow, government has no business doing business. But there are a lot of issues. Wow, that deserves an applause. Yeah, thank you so much. But there are a lot of issues, ranging from regulatory, because a lot of people, want to come into this, to revamp sport in Nigeria. But, there's no regulatory, there's no paperwork to say, okay, if I bring my investment, I hope, along the line, there won't be issues. And that's why I give kudos to Remo Stars owner, Kule Shoname. He's doing great with Remo Stars. You need to be there, and that's a perfect model of, business. You see the way he's doing it. And I was telling somebody the other day, who can have Super Eagles come and play their matches there? So for me, I want to ask, Olabisi Makonjola, that what are the legal and regulatory challenges discouraging, foreign or local direct investments, in Nigerian sport industry, and how can they be addressed?
Thank you very much. So I think the starting point is that we all agree that sports is a business.
Yeah.
So whether at the level of a foreign investor or a local investor, you want a situation where you invest 10 naira and you can say that by 6 months' time, I should be able to make a profit of 4 naira. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, that's not the case. And people like Kunle Shoname, we salute his courage. We pray that Nigeria does not happen to him. But the truth of the matter is, there are lots of things we need to clean up in Nigeria to encourage more of Kunle Shoname. I used to watch Sporting Lagos games at Oniko. It's a shame that they got relegated. I thought they had a fantastic model. But guess what? Half of the time, the stadiums were empty. They tried all that they could, but it was still empty. But that is on what, it's not what you've asked me. You've asked me about legal and regulatory challenges. So we need our enabling laws to be investor-friendly, particularly when it comes to sports. Quite unfortunately, the Companies Act of Nigeria today is replete with, inconsistent provisions, particularly when it comes to repatriation of funds. You bring in money, but when it's time for when it's time for you to take your money out of Nigeria, you start speaking English. They start asking you to shalai. No investor wants that. And so we need to be able to, get things right. We also have, unpredictable tax laws. there's an aggressive tax drive by the federal government and also at the state level, so you cannot deny that. But we need to find a way to encourage people that play in these areas. Either I give them a sort of tax incentive or a tax holiday to say, you know what, if you invest in Nigerian space, in Nigerian sporting space, you would gain some form of tax relief or tax holiday. That is one thing we should look at again. Again, the structure where Remo Stars is, it's on a massive structure. I can imagine the headache that Kuleshoname and his team faced to acquire that property, and I don't know. I may not be surprised if, as of today, their documentation is not complete. That again is another Nigerian problem, where, even in our own private places, how many of us have been able to perfect title documents for where we live? An investor who wants to acquire land to do any sports wants to know that it is as easy as ABC to acquire this land and perfect your title. You need to go to Alaska and see the madness that is going on there, where for somebody to move your file from one table to another is asking for transport money, even within a building. Those are the kind of things that, deter investors. But two more things, which, and I think, I like when Timisan spoke to it earlier on. Yes, I'm a lawyer. I like to go to court for a living. But the court places is not where we solve sporting issues or sporting disputes. I believe that the government should, at this point, have set up what I like to call some sporting tribunals, where those sporting disputes will be, determined. So the Chris Giwa and Amaju Pinnick issue, I'm sure that it distracted Amaju Pinnick from doing his work for the longest time that dispute, was in the airwaves. We're seeing court injunctions and, what have you. So we need to begin to look at having specialized tribunals that will determine or resolve sporting disputes. Then the last one again is our courts. An investor wants to know that if this matter gets to court, this is the way the court will determine my dispute. But unfortunately, in Nigeria, it's not the case, because a judge in Lagos can, on the same set of facts, hold a position. And then because somebody believes that somebody somewhere, a judge in maybe Bayelsa or Ekiti, on the same set of facts, would then arrive at a different decision. Those kind of things scare investors away, where there's no certainty of the legal system. So if you can begin to fix all of these things, I believe that, it will begin to encourage investors to come, and put their money, because indeed there's a lot of money to be made in sports, not just football. So oftentimes when we talk about sports, it is football that is in the back of our mind, but there's much more than football. And I do hope that where we implement these few things, we'll begin to invest more in the sporting industry. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. I appreciate that. We can't stop mentioning Kuleshoname. And if you look at the table, they thought the Remo Stars are on top of the league and all of that. So my next question goes to Moses Praise. You follow the league so much, and you have a knowledge of the league. So my question is that, what are the structural and financial reforms that we need to put in place to make our Nigerian Premier League attractive for long-term investment, for us to have more of Kuleshoname?
It's a very interesting question, by the way. Good morning, good almost afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here. I didn't know I was seated with the editor. Earlier on, I was saying I did not want to be here. I didn't want to be here for the simple fact that we've had this kind of forum before, where we have postulated, given great ideas, excellent speakers, and at the end of the day, it's shelved. Nothing is happening. Nobody has what I like to call testicular fortitude to bring to bear all that has been stated. So what am I doing here again? And he asked me, so why did you agree to come? I said, well, For the simple fact that, because when I was sent the invite, I didn't answer the dude for Desmond, I didn't answer him for 2 weeks. But he came back, and the good book talked about a woman who went to a king and said, look, somebody's after my property, and she was on the king constantly. And the king said, this woman will wear me out. Let me quickly attend to her. Hence why, maybe if we keep hammering on this thing, and we don't stop, maybe, just maybe, we will find a headway. I liked what he said with his opening speech when he said, Business Day has come in. This is our first. So maybe we just might see how things will turn out. I want to thank the earlier speakers. I think there were some lucid thoughts delivered here. And yes, we'll talk a lot about Kunle Shonami and what he's done with Remo Stars. And everybody's quite excited for Remo Stars. Yeah, they're top of the table right now. The title is in view. Yes. Well, what people do not know, because I've had a one-on-one with him, is that he says he spends roughly 300 to 400 million prosecuting the league in one season. He makes money back. Told me he makes money. I said, how much? He said, we made about 10 million. Now, I'm not a proper business person, but you people as business you will know what that ratio is when you invest 400 million and you get back 10 million. That is why most personal or individual owners struggle. They can't sustain it. It's not possible. But what is working for him again is the fact that, yes, he got a second division club outside. So if you sell 2, 3 players, he can prosecute your league at you in the MPFF at least 2, 3 seasons thereabouts. But that's not about it. One of the issues I think most club sides are having at the moment, or rather for a very long time to come, is that they do not understand the business of sports. The reason why you have a chairman, it's in quotes, because he's not really a chairman. He's a chairman of the club because he delivered his word during an election year. And they're like, oh, he did well, he won his word. He did? What can we give him? I know for some weird reason, sports is like a vagabond. They give him sports. It's not a very serious platform, put him there. So you have someone who has no idea, doesn't have the competence of how to run a club. He's just sitting there, and what they're saying to him is, this team must not relegate. The day I meet him, I say, put a microphone in front of him. What are the aspirations of your club side for this season? He said, well, we want to thank the sports-loving governor for... Oh, it's okay, people, you can laugh here. It's okay to laugh. We'll not be arrested. You're looking very gloomy. So I want to thank the sports-loving governor, and by the time he's done rigmaroling and buttering his principle, he now says our aspiration is to make it into the continent. How? So by the special grace of God, which is what we do anyway. Are we not praying for Super Eagles now? And every time, everything we want to do is by the special grace of God. And there is no blueprint. You have to have a plan. How do you intend to achieve this? How do you intend to make this club? And now I'm chairman of this club side. How do I intend to make it acceptable? Not just by outsiders, but by my locality. Most of the clubs are very distant from their fans. I tell you now, supporters club ask for money from the club to follow you to go support. I'm not kidding. This is true. Go check it. Verify. They ask, if you don't give them, they are not going anywhere. So you haven't built a fan base. You are very distant. All you are doing is you must win at home at all costs and look for some places where you can manipulate when you go outside to get. So you're not in the business of the sport in itself. You were just there because, well, they put me here anyway. Let's see what we can do with it. And when, money is released, you put the money in a fixed deposit, players are being owed for months, all sorts of rubbish is going on. Now, I have complained. What can be done? It's simple. I've often said, you have to first and foremost start by building a fan base. Because these are the people that will carry you through. These are the people who you want to come and buy ticket to watch your game. These are the people you want to buy your merchandise. You have to build a fan base. And if you're not giving back to them, if they don't feel you, they have no reason to follow you. They don't. 3 days ago, I was sent a video. It's in my phone right now. A little boy went to, and probably some of you would have seen it, a little boy, he's 5 years old, went to a birthday party. A birthday party. And the guy who was having the birthday, the mother was taking him to go take pictures. And the boy said, no, he doesn't want to take pictures. He said, why? He said, because it's a Chelsea cake. I kid you not. That thing blew my mind away. He's 5 years old. He's an Arsenal fan. Any Arsenal fans here? No wonder the place is gloomy. 5 years old. He refused. He did not take a picture. So fine, they left him. Guess what? They cut the cake and brought him some cake. It's his favorite. He did not eat the cake. I'm like, what? As a 5-year-old, he's been indoctrinated as a fan of Arsenal. We've lost all ours anyway, because nobody really cares about the league. We have to start building a new fan base, and you can't build without engaging them. And it's not when they come to the stadium you engage them. You literally have to go out. You must have programs. You understand? Can anybody here name the highest goal scorer in the league, Nigerian league? I'm not surprised you don't know. Do you understand? Okay, does anybody here support any team in the local league? Huh? Do you? Yeah, local team. Do you have it? Anybody, please? I'm asking by show of hands. You support what team? No, I'm not asking everybody.
Players.
Sorry? Please, I need to hear. Ikorodu City, right? Name 5 players from Ikorodu City. You are lying. You're calling my name. Sit down. Don't call my name. Yeah, I get you. But I'm saying, in the true sense of it, you shouldn't be naming 5 players. You should be naming their squad. You understand? Mr. Tayo here, I'm sure, can name the whole squad of Arsenal. You should be naming their squad. That's what I'm saying. But there's a distance. There's a disconnect. There's a disconnect. The reason why we like Ikorodu City is because, it's in Lagos. It's the only Lagos MPFL team. But in the true sense of it, I tell you right now, there's a disconnect with them and their fans. If you do not interact and create programs that you can be interacting with your fans, let your fans have a say in some of the things you do. Give them a sense of ownership of the club side. If they don't feel that, forget it. You see, if I sit with Mr. and we're talking, Arsenal, I don't know what Ateta is thinking. We need to buy player. We need to get a strike. That's what they say. Have you heard even the Agberos at the bus stop? He has a sense of belonging, one way or the other. And until we start doing that, it's a waste of time. I told a chairman before, how come you don't have social media presence, no digital footprint? Guess what he said to me? Will you win me the league? So you see where his mindset is. It's still in the Stone Age. What you don't understand is your fans are in that space. And you gotta interact in that space. Not that they have it too. It's sitting down there, but it's not useful to them. And we're in a digital world now where everything is done in that space. You have to get into that space. That's your players. That is where they see what you're doing. Oh, I don't need to go. I've never been to the UK and I don't like the place. I've never been there. But I can tell you everything about the Premier League. So until we fix that disconnect between club sides, you can't be asking them now, come and support. You must be out of your mind. I don't know you. Yes, we are in the same locality. We need to have something that ties us together, and then let me have a sense of belonging in that club. Let me have a say in the future. And when I say, I'm not saying I want to determine everything, but let me have a say. That is why the clubs in Europe are flourishing. The last part, and I'm happy I have my good friend here, Sean. He's in government. So maybe send this also to the government. This is another government man here. Stop building cemeteries. How many of us have been to cemeteries? How many of us have been to cemeteries before? So nobody has gone to bury somebody before. Okay, it's where they bury people, in case you don't know. How many of us say, man, I want to hang out. I'm going to a cemetery. What will somebody say to you? They will tie you down, say, hold it before you enter market. Stop building cemeteries. The only reason you go to a cemetery or hear anybody go to a cemetery is because they want to go bury somebody. The cemetery I'm talking about, our stadium. The only reason you go to stadium is because there's a sporting event. And you go to Europe, everywhere else, you enter a stadium, everything is there. It's an ecosystem of business. There's a shopping mall there. There's a cinema there. Restaurants, hotels, apartments, Airbnb, all of this stuff. We're just celebrating the NFF now. A few days, they just announced, I'm sorry, I'm taking a bit of time. It could be just my only question. It's okay. They just announced, oh yes, they've broken ground to build Super Eagles hostel and stuff. And we say, well, our people say now when you wake up, 9 your morning. All other clubs have moved far away from that. They're just breaking ground, which means we're not even sure when the thing will be completed. You get? I'm happy that the stadium, some of the stadia in Oyo State was upgraded. But part of the upgrade is we need to put other things in there. Put an arcade gaming system. So when children go there, it's one of the ways you can pull fans in also. Fix it. I know you don't win too many trophies because we don't even have too many tournaments. You only have the league and FA Cup. Forget whatever name they call it. It's FA Cup. Bring fans in there. At some point in time, Hall of Fame is another long distance thing. Create an avenue where fans can have an experience of what it's about. If I say to Shooting Stars now, show me videos where Odegbami was playing. You can't find those archives. But yet, a few days ago, no. When did Barcelona play Atletico Madrid? This Sunday, right? I saw a video of, and I'm sure some of you would have seen it, of Lamine Yamal as a 9-year-old. And who was holding him? Ramos. It was a Barcelona Real Madrid El Clasico. Lamine Yamal was held as one of the mascots by Ramos. How many of us have seen the video between where you picked? It was a video. Danny Welbeck and Ryan Giggs. Welbeck was a little boy. Who was saying? I think somebody was saying it here where you can track. Okay, he was a maker. You can track athletes, what they've done. We don't have that. That is why it's easier for us to cheat. And our pride is in that we won 5 under-17 tournaments. Shame. Take 25-year-old boy men there to say are you under 17. Under 17 is just, it's like saying, I celebrated, I said this on radio, I celebrated my child's 1-year birthday. Who cares? It's you that wants birthdays, not that child, to be honest. If the child doesn't know what's going on, that child is crying, and you're upset, what was spent, all the clothes will buy. Why is he crying? Because you're stressing him. He didn't ask for the birthday. It's you that wanted birthday. Oh, I celebrated my child's 2nd-year birthday. Now, I'm not saying don't celebrate before. Don't quote me. I'm not saying don't celebrate, but I'm saying the real essence of that child is that he turns out to become a decent human being. That child turns out to become someone who can add value. That child turns out to become someone who can carry the legacy of the family, the name of the family, take it to the next place. So I don't celebrate when you win under 17 World Cup. I celebrate when out of the 23 players, 20 of them are still playing 15 years later. 15 years later, you will still see them playing. That's what I celebrate. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Interesting. I was going to ask you, what we need to do about media and digital platforms to increase fan engagement, and you talked on that. And again, my next question is that what lesson can Nigerian sport learn from global leagues like, we mentioned EPL, NBA like in 2023-24 season, the 30 clubs made over 11 billion. So people think football is the biggest sport. No, it's the NBA. And they have a lot of fan base. So the question, and again, if you look at it, many of those guys, like I said earlier, many of them are Nigerian descent. A lot of them. A lot of them are like, so how do we, what are the lessons that we can learn to ensure that, okay, from all this EPL, NBA, and all of that, in terms of broadcasting, to ensure that we get revenue from our, leagues and sports?
I grew up with elderly people, so I heard a lot of adage. Chief Ebenezer Obey was one of my favorite. Can I call him artist, musician? And there's this saying that when you call people to come and help you carry your load on your head, it is assumed that you have gathered the load. In other words, you can't say, come and help me carry load. And when they come, say, hey, let me bring that one that is there. Hey, please, let me bring that one over there. No. We have to be very serious about what we call the business of sport. I do my best not to compare us with, whatever is outside there. Because, we have our peculiarities, all right? I'm not sure there's anybody here. I don't care how much you love Rangers International. If Rangers are playing in Makodi, I'm not sure, even if you have the means, I'm not sure you are willing to want to travel there. Right? So, our economic system, our nation in itself, poses a bit of a problem. I've often said sports is just a symptom of the problem of the nation. If you meet somebody who has AIDS, one of the symptoms is that he has constant headaches. So when you hear, say, I'm having headache, I have one strong Panadol. If you give him, it gives him relief at that point. But guess what? It's still going to come back. Why? The issue is not the headache. The issue is the AIDS. If you have a mechanism to put your hand in and remove the AIDS, you won't have headache anymore. So the nation in itself, with its antecedent problem, doesn't allow for a lot of growth. Hence why the people who try to do things, I have my good friend Shola who's here, and is doing some amazing, because if you're talking football development, sports development, he's doing amazing work with his academy. Now, don't mind what people call academy. It's just a human trafficking. That's what it is. Anyway, football and all these transfers, it is human trafficking. It's just legal. But what he's doing there, it's at the grassroots level, school level. If you want to be serious about building, about becoming financially viable, you can stand on your own as a club site in Nigeria. Please take seriously how your brand is viewed. In other words, you cannot be having crowd problems at your stadium. You cannot be beating referees. You have to discipline anyone who messes around. Why? Your brand is very important. Look, if anybody here slaps me, I can't do you anything. You know why? I'm carrying the brand called Supersport, DSTV. We are losing out to live stream. We don't want to lose you. So I have to take it in. I can go into my car and start shouting. I'm crying. But I have to take it. Why? You are my customer. And we must start saying it that way. Club side must start saying everybody, these are our customers. You understand? Earlier on I talked about creating programs. If just let them see you out there. That you were doing activities, you were giving back, all of this stuff. You have to build yourself first as a brand before anybody can put anything inside of you. I tried to do that with one former Super Eagles player. I did it with one, worked excellently. The other one, I said, nobody knows you. You haven't done anything. Let's see how we can build you up. And I said, you will pay me. I will work with you for 6 months. You will pay me. This is what I'm collecting. Guess what? His wife and him came back and said, so how much are they going to make? What do you mean make? We don't know you. We must first make you a brand that is acceptable and then give you some form of visibility. That's what we want to do. Club sites, if you're talking merchandising, Temisa talked about it here, is the hardest thing for them to do. I don't understand why. It's the hardest thing for them to do. There's a lot of corruption, unfortunately, within the club sites. There's a lot of benefits some of their top guys are making from the decadence, from things not working. I know somebody who has said, I will bring you jerseys, 2 containers of jerseys. And not just jerseys, kits, so boots, everything. I'm bringing 2 containers for you. We'll sign a deal. After you get the 2 containers, you will give me licensing to sell these jerseys also. The 2 containers for the club side, you do whatever you want to do. So players are getting 5, whatever. You give me license to sell. In selling, you also get a percentage. People tell me, is that not a good deal? They refuse. Why? Because they've already gotten money to buy a jersey, and they prefer to go and buy the jersey. So you see, those issue of corruption now becomes a problem. They can't move ahead. Getting technocrats on board is very important. It's very important, but it's the hardest thing to do, unfortunately. That's why there's nobody in the government in Kunle Shoname's Remo Star. There's nobody in the government. You understand? When it comes to government, it's the hardest. Shame you to know now. It's hard. Because even you who is also a technocrat, I know there will be struggles, you want to do some things, but they tell you, this is how it has been before you were born. This is how it will remain. So you literally have to dance around it. This now becomes a mindset. We need a paradigm shift. And I think it's going to happen. Mr. Tayo, I agree with you. In fact, as I sat there, I made up my mind, I will continue shouting. I used to shout, I stopped, I will continue shouting until the right things are done. You understand? At this point in time, I can tell you, our football is not run as it should be run. They are friends of mine, but because they are friends means you should hear the truth from me. I'm not against you. I want things to work. And if it's going to work, you have to have the right mentality for it to work. So these are not, and that's why I danced away from $7 billion. Leave that thing. Don't leave it. Let Dangote and Co. Them be doing that one. Right here, do the basics. Keep it simple. You understand? Once we build it to that point, money will naturally stream in. There was a time when I host events, like Elizabeth stated. I host events. Fear no catch me to tell you, say, I want 50,000. Fear, I can't tell you. But now, don't give me 10 million and see what will happen.
Wow, interesting. I want to ask just one last question for Honorable Shehu. In all these things, how do we ensure that grassroots sports initiatives translate into a pipeline for national and international talent development? Because you can't take it. We have this talent here, but so how do we do that?
All right. So, quite frankly, I sincerely identify with the position of my dear Egmont Praise. And you see, there are a lot of challenges, in the system. Being an active, player in this, system, I know a number of things, that are hard, to actually, go through, especially when it comes, to the bureaucracy, sport with, these, permissions, approvals, here and there is actually, very, very interesting. It could be very, very chaotic. And even the fans and the supporters, that's another, beautiful story entirely. As commissioner for 4 years, I remember we'll be going for matches, especially matches outside, Ibadan, and you practically have to pay everybody off. You call, this group, we are fans and supporters. I think, from the word, of that, you are supporting the club. But in Nigeria, I think it's the reverse is the case. It's the club that is supporting these people. Because, you come, to me and you want, me to fuel your vehicle, to wherever we are going. You want me to feed you and then, still give you, pocket money. For being loyal fans and supporters to escort, the club. And that's that. Then, there's the other side too. The what do I call them now? The affairs, too will come to say, Honorable Commissioner, this is our match. We have to pray. So I have to pay the affairs to pray, for the club. And, the pastors too will come, say, Honorable Commissioner, Anilati Badra, for, this our match, I will pay. Then the Onisheshes, the traditional, ones will also come to say, we have to do this. to buy this chin up and this. So it's quite interesting. And I mean, when we have things like that, it will definitely not promote the sport the way it ought to promote it. And coming to the question about grassroots, the thing is, until we actually have a true representation and a true carriage of the heritage of sports, that is when we begin to reap the benefits. About a year ago, some guys, actually, came, around, just a group of, individuals, in Oyo State, Ibadan. I mean, then there, and they call themselves, the 3SC, fans, TV, and I mean, these are guys that they just observe that there is a challenge, somewhere. And I believe that, necessity is the mother of invention. They see that the fans and the supporters, the existing, the indigenous fans and supporters in a club, group that is meant to be propagating the gospel of this club, they are not doing it. And, sometimes you cannot actually fault this set of people. They are actually, older, men, the older generation. So these younger generations came, together to say that, okay, how can we actually promote this, our beloved, club? And then they started doing it, for a year now, have about 30,000, organic, followership and about, 1 million, impressions every month. And, I personally feel that this is actually, quite, motivating and inspiring. And the beautiful thing is that these guys, have never come to me, or I don't think they have ever gone to anybody in the government to say that, okay, give us money. These are guys that they just feel that, okay, this is what we can actually do to make 3SC better, and then they're actually doing a fantastic job at it. So I feel so strongly that when we can have that kind of system, grassroots sports would actually become bigger. Because I mean, from a number of videos that they've done, a lot of people, maybe when I travel or when they interact with me, they'll say that, oh, we saw this, how did you see it? And they saw it through the 3SC fans TV. I mean, and this is not owned by the government, it's just an establishment by some private individuals. So I think we just really need to do more and then put our direction into the right places. There's a lot of rot in the system, and I really believe that we'll just get it by being intentional. And when we do that, a lot of things will change.
Well, a lot of things will change. Like Moses Praise said, we can't stop talking. We'll keep talking, we'll keep talking, we'll keep talking. And, Business Day, a very veritable platform. Hopefully the government will listen and say, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that. That's all we can take in this first panel. I must say thank you to my guests. I say thank you. It was a robust, discussion and all of that. It was like open our eyes to some certain things that many of us knew but never knew in details. And we hope that, government will one day listen and gradually the right thing will be done and, take our sport to greater heights. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our very informed and knowledgeable panelists. They did a very thorough job on that panel. We'll have time for just 2 questions because we don't have, okay, so we have one person there, just one more person. Yes, so we have 2 people, very, very brief. Please. All right, can Mr. Izuchukwu Nwakpa also join in these photos, please? Thank you. Also, the editor, Mr. Tayo Fabuli. Please, if you could just wait for a bit so we can just take two questions. We already have 2 people on ground.
Hello, good day, everyone. And to our panelists, I say a big thanks to you. You've done justification to the topic on board. But I really need I want you to touch some aspect which is very, very important and very, very cogent to I personally, that I'm a sports person and I'm a core athlete and I'm also a student. You are not touching some things that are touching our lives. Sport is in our community. Without you taking sport to our community, there is no development. Mr. Fakorede, you are into the government. We cannot be using UK as an example. Go to Egypt. They don't use UK structure to determine their sport. So my question goes first of all to Mr. Moses Praise, which is I could remember when I was still small then, MTN do one championship then at Teslim Balogun Stadium. And they don't do it anymore. Yeah, to be fast. So my first question is that how, even if these private investors come into the sport industry, how can there be that consistency when it comes to development in this sporting industry? Yeah, as you can see now, the government are trying their best. But let's see what can we do, because we are known with dwelling into why the problem. No, what's the solution? What's the solution? I want us to direct our pressure into the solution. As you said it earlier too, that you keep on repeating it times that number. What's the solution, and which is a consistency when it comes to sport development? And also to Mr. Fakorede, my question goes thus: how can you turn our sport into our community? That's where our development is. Not until when we are using UK structure for our own year. Nigeria is different to UK. Where you have Hausa, you have this is the different structure for you to use in Lagos. It will be different for the one you use to Yola, for the one you use in Kano.
Summarize your question.
So that's my question. Huh?
I said you should summarize your question.
Yeah, that's my question, Mr. Fokoede. How can we turn our sport into our community to bring the development we want? And also to Mr. Moses, that consistency when it comes to private investing in sports. Thank you.
What's your name again? Abayomi, how you doing? All right. The Super Eagles are going to play on Friday against Rwanda. The coach is going to do, it's like a poison chalice for Eric Sekushel, the coach of the Super Eagles, because at the time he came in, the Super Eagles are in a precarious situation. So if things go well, good for him. If it doesn't, he will be the problem. Yes. But there has to be a point where, and this has always happened most of the time, where the players will say to themselves, this is not about the coach. This is not about the nation. This is about us. We need to go in there and spill blood. I said that to say this. Corporates have got to come to a point where they'll say, you know what? Let's take this sport. And this now becomes our baby to build. The problem we have with most of our corporates nowadays is they are ambush. Let me not use that. The problem with that is that they only wait for victory. You understand? So it's when the Super Eagles in the finals, I will give them $100 million if they win, and people is me too, I will give you 20 million. I will say, I will give you, it's nonsense. I would rather you follow the Super Eagles from their qualifiers. I would rather you find an athlete nobody knows and say, you know what, we're going to follow you till you become that person, that victorious person. When Toby Amuson won her race and became a warrior, you know how many brands stood up? Toby Amuson, Toby Amuson, Toby Amuson. And I said it on air, me and Eddie Fear. I said it. I said they are all shameless. How come you can't get an athlete we don't know anything about? I know MTN is doing something. The question now is, can you sustain that? We had Shell Cup for how many years for secondary schools? Who else is doing any of that? Can you sustain that? Hence why In a way, I cut them some slack. Why? The economic environment can be crazy at times. It's crazy. Do you understand? People can shout, oh, DSTV is increasing there, and you forget that whatever it is they show you is bought in dollars, not in naira. But what they are getting back is in naira. That needs to change and be repatriated, like my good man here says. So your question is a bit tough. It's tough in the sense that the corporates can only do what they will need to do, but I'm saying they need to do better ultimately and sustain, be known. When you say Milo, what sports come to mind? They stayed on that for long. Till now. Till now. Even when you say Shell, everybody knows it's secondary school football. And I think that's what brands needs to do. Be known for that. That would be my thoughts.
Abraham, thank you. If I get to your question, right, about, we taking, the sports back to the community, yeah? I want to believe that's the question. Yes. Okay, good. So, a lot of times, when I have the privilege to, I don't, like, to just, say abstract or imaginary things. I like to use, myself as a case in point because, actively, serving, in the Ministry of Youth and Sports, or your state, I could only tell, the things that I have been able to do firsthand. So when I got in 2019, and after my, tour, around, the facilities of the state, I noticed, a number of things, and I know that, one thing that I actually wanted to be big, heart was, at the grassroots, sports. But I figured that, okay, if we want to develop, grassroots sports, a number of, the zones that we have in Oyo State, they don't even have, good, facilities, sports facilities. So one of the things that, we did was, just to zone, the whole states. And when we did that, we decided, through this, what motivated this was the need, for grassroots, sports, facilities and, complexes. And, with the governor's, magnanimous, adoption, of this, it actually gave us, wings, to fly. So what we said is that, for each, zone that we have, we'll start from there. Let us put, a mini, stadium in each of these, communities. At least, when we have something like that, when we have a project like that, young people, sports enthusiasts, athletes, could actually, galvanize, towards these facilities to do whatever they want to do. And it's even easy, for us to plan, tournaments, tourneys, around, the states, so that, our young people can actually engage in these things. And those were the things that we did. While I was there, as commissioner, like we had about, 12, new, sports facilities that were not even, in view before. So it's not like as if this is just, an upgrade or this is just a remodeling. This is actually a fresh project, a fresh sports infrastructure, project, that started, at that time. So I believe that, this is just one out of many things that we can do as government or as individual. But I think, for any government who does this, and then is actually on the path, for the sustainability of such, projects, I think it's going to increase, the love of, people, especially at the grassroots, to want, to engage in sports. And then, from that, point, we could also let them know the economic importance of, these, activities. There are a lot of people that, I've seen a number of people that they just want to do sports because they love it. They don't even care whether they get a penny from it. But when we now, tell this set of people that, look, you can actually do this thing that you love to do. And this is actually the economic, benefit and dividend that is attached to it. You can imagine how much, joy and how much, drive that these people would have. So that's what, we are trying to do. And still in my capacity as the, advisor, the executive advisor, to the governor, these are actually the things that we are actually doing to make sure that we sustained everything that, we started, in the past, 4 or 5 years to, increase that consciousness amongst, young people in sport.
So let me just chip in briefly. I think that on the government side, And I've always said this everywhere I've gone, that except we are deceiving ourselves, the government has no business in sports. The government's business is in providing infrastructure for sports to strive. So until we accept we get that right, we'll continue to face the same problem. I'll be singing the same song every time when that's a solution. Government should hand over sports for the professionals to deal with sports, but provide an enabling environment for these professionals to do their sports. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Robust conversation. I feel like not leaving here, but to have a second session we need to attend to. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's all for now. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Please put your hands again together for our brilliant panelists. Can we do better with our applause, please? Thank you so much.
Yes, that was such an insightful panel discussion. Big thanks to the panelists and the moderator. Just going by what Mr. Moses mentioned on building a fan base and connecting to the supporters, that's giving them a sense of belonging, like they're part of the process. I myself, personally, I have a couple of fans and a few fans who are influenced by my passion and advocacy for sports, particularly the NFL and NBA. I strongly believe that the sports industry has great potential, but we need to carry the people along. Like he has said, we need to carry the people along. So without further ado, I'd like to make welcome for our keynote address by Honorable Lekon Fatodu. He's the Director General, Lagos State Sports Commission, and he's going to be represented by Mr. Travi Nonayong. Mr. Travi is the Director of Sports, the Lagos State Sports Commission. Please, let's make welcome to Mr. Travi.
Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I have a keynote address to be delivered by, on behalf of my Director General, Mr. Lekon Fatodu, who is unavoidably absent due to some state exigencies. So let me just read the keynote address. Keynote address by Director General Lagos State Sport Commission at the Nigerian Sport Conference. The theme, Business of Sport in Nigeria, Unlocking Economic Potential. The Sport Commission and the role it plays in keeping sport business alive in Lagos. So it is an honor to stand here before you to read a keynote address on behalf of my Director General, Mr. Lekon Fatodu, where we try to put before this honorable gathering, the focus of unlocking economic potential of sport in Nigeria. The business of sport is no longer just a matter of recreation and competition. It is a powerful engine of economic growth, job creation, and social transformation. The Lagos State Sport Commission plays a pivotal role in developing sport in the state, which is integral part of our social and economic fabric. Lagos, a city of 20 million people, is home to essential 10 million youth adult sport enthusiasm, forming the foundation of a multi-million naira industry that significantly contributes to our state economy and continue to expand in scope, scale, and influence. At the Commission, we are committed to driving this expansion by fostering a structured, well-governed, commercially viable sport industry. Our mandate extends beyond promoting participation. We create an enabling environment for investment, talent development, infrastructural growth that position Lagos as the leading sport hub in Africa. The business of sports in Lagos encompasses several key sectors, each presenting vast opportunity for stakeholders, professional sport leagues, companies through sponsorship, broadcasting rights, ticket sales, recreational sports, and wellness programs. Sport equipment and apparel market are also striving within the state ecosystem. Within the state ecosystem, which has also led to the proliferation of gyms within the states, and you can bear testimony to the fact that at least Lagos has two major bands that run concurrently: the Lagos City Marathon and the World Table Tennis Contenders, which are major stakeholder events that are in the calendar of the state. As a regulatory authority overseeing sport development, Lagos State Sport Commission plays a fundamental role in sustaining and expanding these opportunities. Our focus on governance, our focus is not just on international competition, but our focus also speaks to the fact that we try to develop infrastructures, and our infrastructures are not just the mega infrastructure. Our infrastructure focus is to have community-based infrastructures that will speak to talent discovery and talent development within the sport ecosystem, and which you can also bear testimony that Lagos, as of today, has such facility as Testing Balogun Stadium, Agege Stadium, the Mobolaji Johnson Sport Arena. This venue, along other community sports centers, serves as a critical asset to which we use in developing our talent. Okay. Now, we are also open to private partnership are pivotal to our strategy. We have successfully collaborated with corporations to fund grassroots programs, upgrade facilities, and establish profitable franchise. Example of this is what we have ongoing now. We have the Techno Sura 8-a-side sport facility that is being developed by private partnership. We have the Lagos Liga, which ran last year, December. We have the Spy 5-a-side football tournament. We have the Capital City Race under the Lagos Town Race series. These are some of the illustrations of the partnership that Lagos, as an entity, is building. We have also developed innovation and technology that are shaping the future of sport business. Lagos is embracing this transformation. Digital ticketing, fans engagement app, performance ticket tracking technology, and data analysis are now integral to sport management. We recognize the economic potential of emerging sectors such as e-sport, fencing and archery, and extreme sport. Ditto, we also have in our coffers urban sport, which effort underway to develop regulation and infrastructure that supports their growth. Okay. Now we also have community engagement, grassroots development, which remains at the heart of strategy. For example, we're talking about how do we raise athletes to stardom. In Lagos, what we've done with the National Youth Game in Lagos is to engage parents, because we know under 15 should be school-based. So we've involved our parents in the career of their wards. So for each time we want to go to the youth game, we'll engage parents. We'll give them and ask them to take ownership. Because in asking them to take ownership, we've done demography. We've done a demographic study of sports that are prevalent within each area and each community. And such is streaming currently now, that the state government has just commissioned the Road Park swimming pool, brought together to take ownership by ensuring that their kids have access and come to this pool to swim, not at a fee, to swim at the leisure, at the provision of the state government. Okay, so these are efforts we are doing on our part to ensure engagement of these athletes and to further push their career to stardom. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to be quick because of the time given to me, so I'm just trying to review. So despite this success, we still know we have challenges that persist, which is a constraint because government can't do it all alone. We have 45 sports that we need to fund, and we might not be able to do this alone. So the Lagos State Sport Commission is advocating for policy reform that includes tax incentives for sport business, streamline licensing process, and improve security measures at sporting venues so that we can have a sustainable engagement and partnership for investors or would-be partners that want to come and invest in the ecosystem. We at the Lagos State Sport Commission have redefined our policies, our staff strength and workforce by first reorientating and realigning our staff force to be to the present realities of workforce requirement in the 20th century. So this has helped in ensuring you walk to any sport officer, any coach. They know the thinking of the management, they know the thinking of Mr. Governor, that youth engagement is crucial and vital to the sustainability of sport and sustainability of the office. So every officer you meet in Lagos State government, you approach. If you come with any proposition or proposal for sport, they will quickly sit down with you, discuss with you, and escalate to the appropriate quarters, thereby ensuring that Lagos is involved and Lagos activates such to better improve and assist to manage and engage our youth population. So to us as the Lagos State Sport Commission, we realize and we understand the importance of sports and the importance of sport as a business. And so we are willing to partner and to engage reasonable thoughts, reasonable organization and individual to develop and engage our youth. So we are putting in everything on the high tech. For example, this morning at the Lagos State Sport Commission, before coming here, why we came late was because we had a meeting with the French embassy about how to develop esports in Lagos. Considering the fact that esports is now becoming the big thing in sport now. It's no longer football, it's no longer basketball. Because with esports, you can have bigger, larger participants at a venue or within your state and outside your state. Because all you need to do is just set up the enabling links, and you will have your participants engaging and taking part in playing, and you have your fans also watching online real time. So for us at the Lagos State Sport Commission, we are in the business of sport, and we are revolving, and we are revolving. Thank you very much, and good morning, and good afternoon, please.
Thank you very much, sir. So yes, please, I'd like us to make welcome for a presentation by Mr. Izuchukwu Wakpa. He is the founder of Gloria Sports, and Gloria Sports is actually one of our sponsors for today's event. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. It's an honor to be here today to stand before key dignitaries and everybody, the key stakeholders in sports. I'm just here to introduce to us Govia. We live in a time where content is currency. So almost everything everybody has been saying as the issues around the sporting ecosystem. Content is currency, and talent isn't just seen on the field alone. Talents are discovered through our screens, our mobile screens. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram have shown us that content drives influence. Influence drives opportunities. Now imagine bringing this power into sports, an industry that drives talent, visibility,
and engagement. The core of sports is content, and the currency to trade in sports is content. And what Govia is trying to do is to enable us receive and get opportunities where everyone in the sporting ecosystem can get some level of monetization and visibility, which are the key things that we lack in Nigerian sports and across Africa. Why have we built Govia? Think about TikTok, but designed for sports. Think about the LinkedIn, but designed for athletes. Think about an Instagram, but optimized for talent discovery. That is what we are bringing to the sports ecosystem. One of the major advantages that the first world nations have over the African and Nigerian populace is that they are able to utilize their media to sell talents. Everyone that has come, say this, a small Lamal, is media. Our players that engage in under 17, under 16, and across different sports, after the tournament, nobody hears about them. Why? It's media. Most of us here have not gone to any Arsenal, or I'm an Arsenal fan, I've been there to watch the matches. But, no, don't tell me sorry. We are going home with the Champions League this year. Praise me. All right? You know. All right. Now, most of us that are football fans, golf fans, we've not really gone to Europe to see. So how do we support these clubs? It's through media. It's what they have made us to see that we like. And that is the narrative that Govia we are bringing to the Nigerian ecosystem for sports. And we want to encourage everybody to jump on it. I would have said you should show the homepage, but go to the, let me just tell you what our mission is. Yeah, I'm supposed to use this, yes. Okay. Our mission is to harness the unifying power of sports to drive commerce, talent discovery, and economic opportunities, connecting athletes, clubs, scouts, brands, and businesses through a digital ecosystem that empowers growth and innovation in the sports industry. Our vision is to be the one social media platform for athletes, clubs, fans to connect. Down to the man that sells jersey in Alaba, down to the club that wants to produce jerseys in mass quantity. We are building a platform where key stakeholders in the sport ecosystem can integrate and provide solutions. There was someone that asked a very key question. One of the reasons why the private sector might find it so difficult to take up sponsorship deals in the sporting ecosystem, I'll tell you, everybody wants to get a direct value for every expenditure that they make. I worked in Zenith for 9 years, and I was privileged to lead retail marketing. So I know of the Nigerian Basketball League. We sponsored that for close to 10 years. And for the last 3 months before I left Zenith, I was there. Now, the association, the bank cannot be publicizing the players for you. They've given you an allocation, they've given you availability, they make sure that the events hold. But there's no platform to broadcast this. Nobody knows it's happening. So if we want a Milo to sponsor a tournament or to bring out, to help talents to be discovered, then we need to give them a platform where these talents can be monitored, data can be derived, and that is why Govia is here. We are here to make sure that the Nigerian who has a talent in either track and field events, basketball, from the Egbedas and the local places are seen worldwide. Our media is too expensive.
If you want to do an advert on the existing social media platforms, you spend a lot of money. And how many of us can afford that? How many of them can afford that money for sponsorship? What we are doing is that we are crashing the cost. We are trying to build this ecosystem to make sure that people are able to score their dream goals. That is what Govia means. Govia means goal through, via through. So we are creating a platform that would help young Nigerians score their dream goals. The market, Praise doesn't want us to look at the billion-dollar market. The opportunities are there. So we are ready to take up this journey, and we are just here to get the support of the sports stakeholders. I told Praise that I came to this event largely because of him, to reach out to him. We've been trying to reach out to him, but he says it's easy to reach out to him. But I'm happy that they put my seat close to him so that we can do this together. He has a platform on SuperSport that is watched by millions. Would like to bring him to Govia, because as they see him, they will see Govia and people can join. We have our flyers on your seat. Please download. If you have a social media platform, if you have an Instagram, if you have a TikTok, just see this as the social media built for Nigeria. Now, the same way contents are monetized on TikTok, Govia is on the right track to monetize content. The student there that wants to be seen from whatever school you are doing your sports, you put up your contents there, and the scouts, the agents, they will see you. We've gone ahead to pay for UEFA B coaches to join the platform. We pay subscription to them. We are trying to do our own little investments to ensure that the right people on the platform, to help the right people that will join to get to stardom that they require. Now, this is how Govia is, and this is what we are offering. We have a lot, but we are starting with this. You can post your contents. You can see it's just like your existing social media platforms. Gamifications that will keep fans engaged. We already have live scores. So on the app too, you can view your contents. If you're a sports person that needs to know what's going on across different sports, you do not need to leave the Govia platform. We have built an ecosystem that has everything in it. It's just meant to put super sports in it so that you can have your live viewing rights here also. So we also have created a marketplace that people in sports, people that are involved in merchandising in sports, can also have a place here. We have a lot of our sports legends that have gone unnoticed. You asked the question here today. Most of us now, it will be difficult to get data of past legends, but across the other side of the world, they have it. What we have done is that we've created a legend base. We want to be able to track athletes from parenting to when they go to stardom and even after they retire. And people pay a lot to even get jerseys of these retired people. We have built a marketplace for them here. For the scouts and agents, your marketplace is people will pay you when they read your articles. So we are creating a lively system with monetization and commercialization for everyone to join Govia. What are the economic potentials? A fully integrated marketplace, affiliate marketing, athletes get recruited by clubs and scouts, coaches and sports analysts, they get contracts, and players can manage and negotiate contracts digitally. So I'll just round up by saying that we all should join Govia. As a coach, as a regulator, as an athlete, this is the right platform for you to come and score your dream goals. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Izuchukwu Nwapa. We're finally hitting the home run this afternoon, and we'll be calling for our next panel and our final panel right now. And this panel is focused on talent development, branding for the digital sport economy. And this, I'll be calling in no particular order, Yetunde Olopade, the Chief Executive Officer for Nilayo Sport, being represented by Sandra Omoni. She's the business strategist at Nilayo Sport. Nilayo Sport is the biggest sports marketing firm on the continent of Africa. They're also the league commissioner for the biggest private football league in Nigeria, Lagos La Liga. Please make Sandra feel welcome. We also have Sherif Hamid, the chairman of the Lagos State Judo and the vice president Sambo Association. Please make Sherif feel welcome as he comes up. Joining us on this panel as well is Mr. Izuchi Kunwakwa, the founder of Govia. It looks like our applauses are getting, thank you very much. Two people on this panel cannot be here today, so we'd also like to recognize our audience that's joining us online. They've been online for a while now, and we really want to thank them. So please, if it's not too much for you, please put your hands together for our online audience. And to moderate this panel is Mr. Moses Brace, TVO sportcaster at Super Sports. Please make him feel welcome as he comes up. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we please give a very resounding applause to our event host for today, Elizabeth and Suj. I think they've done an excellent job and we appreciate them. So, I'm back again. Like I never left. I did go back to my seat. I'm quite excited. I'm thrilled with what I have witnessed here today. I feel a sense of achievement on the horizon. And I feel something is going to pop out of this. I don't know what it is, but there's something really great ahead of us. I want to say welcome to my panelists. These are very, very well-structured people, and they know what they are here for. So we're just going to jump into the nitty-gritty of this particular panel where we're talking about talent development, branding for the sports economy. Well, the CEO of Nilayo Sports, and by the way, if you do not know about the Lagos City Marathon, then you are a ghost. Even ghosts know about it. You understand? It's one of the key races on the calendar of world athletics. Just to tell you how far it's come. 10 years it's been running, and I'm very proud to say I was there at the very inception. It's my voice you will hear welcoming you to that very first edition. And I didn't sleep much because we wanted it to be right. And for people who know me, please recognize that I'm a sportscaster. So when people see me at marathons, they see me at a golf tournament, they ask me, what are you doing here? I said, I'm not a football caster. I'm a sportscaster. I just happen to do football a lot. And I decided after 25 years, although this was a decision I took about 5 or 6 years ago, that I've built a lot of value doing football. And I think I can use that value to build other sports. That's why I've gotten into flag football, rugby now, badminton, cricket, all of those stuff. I want to see those sports built. Talent development. So I'm going to start off first with representatives of Nilayo Sports. Sandra, what are the key elements that have made the Lagos City Marathon an absolute successful sports brand? And how can this template be lent by other sports or sports management companies?
Thank you. Firstly, I would say good afternoon to everyone here, and I'm happy to be here representing my MD CEO, Mrs. Yetunde Olopade. Jumping to the question, what has been the key element? For Nilaya Sports, betting the Lagos City Marathon was betted off the founder's vision. Yes, so before it came out to the public that things like this was going to happen in Africa, he had the vision of first creating something that would outlive him. Also, getting partnership from the state and also private sector, because we could get all the sponsorship we want, but without the backing of the host, there will be no city marathon. Yes, because so he understood these things and the essence of right partnership with the private and public, which is what bettered Lagos City Marathon, and also for us to have been able to sustain this marathon, it was intentional about community engagement and inclusion, which is why you hear people even from outside of this country telling you that Lagos City Marathon will happen in February because they already registered it. And even the citizens of the country, they are always looking forward to that February when the marathon would hold. They will tell you, oh, we are going to run. They have even become advocates of this event, which shows the kind of intentionality the MD has put into building the brand Lagos City Marathon, which is what several private sectors are proud to associate with now. And for the record, the last marathon we had last month was we had the highest sponsor ever recorded. We had over 20 sponsors for that event. So I think if other businesses, other people trying to get into the business of sports, if they keep these things at the back of their mind, it's not just about their business in that particular time. It's not only about maximizing the profit, but also what are you doing? Of what significance is it to the community where you're hosting this? And I think, and what are the key takeaways for the public? Can they attach a sense of ownership to this? So these are the questions that needs to be answered before putting out your products in public. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sandra. Look, if there's anything I've heard, and I think that's one point where every business must start from, a vision. If you can't articulate your vision, then you can't sustain the vision. You understand? Properly articulate and articulate who, because the vision tells you who needs to be a part of this. And Lagos City Marathon has more or less made us realize that what this government needs to do, the marriage between the government and the corporate sector was one made in heaven, perfectly aligned. And that's how things need to do for it to be sustained. By the way, the 10th edition was the first time a Nigerian will actually make it into the top 10, because that's where the dollar really is, and that in itself deserves an applause. We are happy about that. We want to see this keep growing. Sharif, you're the chairman of Lagos State Judo, vice president of the Sambo Association of Nigeria. So if we're talking combat sports, you're the man to go to. Interestingly, Nigeria's first medal from the Olympic Games was in combat sports. In combat sport, boxing. Now, how can combat sports in Nigeria move from that niche to mainstream and most importantly, attract investment? Because it feels like it's dwindled a lot, even though we're seeing a few things pop up here and there.
Okay. First of all, I would like to, good afternoon, everyone. And I'm actually going to pick that from two areas, and from the competition aspects, and the other part is going to go in our environment, like lifestyle. And I'm sure a lot of people here in this room do not understand combat sports. We're not really familiar with combat sports. Maybe a lot of us here are basically boxing, UFC, and all of that. And we are not really, we don't really understand particularly here in Nigeria, what combat sport, what is it's really all about. I'll pick judo, for example. In some part of the world, yeah, they see judo, they don't see judo as a sport, they see it as a religion. And the sport has some values that we really don't understand. We don't understand what those values are. If we pick up our phone now and just Google the judo values, and which talks about respect, honesty, courage, friendship, politeness, love, and those are what I'm sure attributes everyone here will want to imbibe in all our kids, and we want to have a better society, better community, and all of that. In fact, going into our security aspects, and in France, if a child is actually stubborn or being a bully, they'll ask the child to go for a judo lesson. They will enroll the child into for discipline. So now, and we've actually we're not tapping into all of those opportunities to attract investment in this part of the world. Is all of those things I just listed. We're just looking at, let's just go for competition. People managing all of those sports, okay, a sport administrator in combat sport, let's go competition, let's go and fight and all that. It's more than a sport. It has a lot of opportunities that can actually attract investment. And we all talk about football, and we need to create story and content around value of this sport. For instance, I'm going to amaze this room. We have visually impaired athletes that do judo. That's very emotional. And that's huge opportunity to attract investors. We're not taking advantage of, we're not looking at that. And we have people, judo has been in Nigeria for over 30 years. And we have people that have been saying, I've been president of judo, that have been, what are they doing with this potential? And in this very state, it breaks my heart. The man that spoke on behalf of DG of Lagos State Sports Commission. Lagos State is the only state in Nigeria that have pool of blind athletes that do judo and sambo. And where are all these brands? We have all of these brands seated in Lagos. Nobody's lynching on these opportunities of these blind athletes to attract huge investors. So we apart from just competition, even our kids, we need to start looking at how we can come up with initiatives and programs around these sports. Like, look at the value I just said. Why can't we just start a judo to school program in telling our kids what friendship, what love, all those attribute values of judo, letting our kids growing up to have all of those values. Who are the owner of judo? Japanese, and they are seen as the most respected people in the world. Why are they respected? Why do they have all of those? Because they see those attributes, and in them they have all those their culture. That's what it teaches, and that's what judo also teaches. So we need to look at the opportunities and look at the value of this sport and take that the important the value of the sport and turn it around to attract huge investors. And you see a lot of brands will probably come up on it and come up with it, to support this sport and tap into in terms of security. Look at what's happening with, you see, Boko Haram, rape, and all of those things. Judo can start using our girl child for self-defense. That's solving the societal problem. So we need to start looking at the opportunities that these sports have to solve our societal problems, to attract huge investors. Thank you very much.
Excellent thoughts. Now, this is from the last part of your statement. This is what I heard. We need to drag all our baddies to judo, because if somebody's going to come at you, I will fight for you. If you, as an Instagram baddie, can throw some punches, some kicks here, aren't you safe already? Is that not what you're saying, Sherry? Yeah. But baddies won't hear. But that's what I think we need to do. Also, very importantly, Izuchukwu made a point which I actually forgot to state as part of the things club sides need to start doing. If you don't tell your story, they're going to tell it for you. If you don't tell your story, they will tell it for you. Many of the things that are local to us is now being sent to us packaged from abroad. And we are paying for that which is ours, which makes no sense. Hence why content is king. And in everything we do, it's a content. For instance, now I'm hearing for the first time that they are visually impaired judokas, as they're called. That's some amazing content. I feel if you put that together with the power of social media, you will have brands, and brands like where the eyeballs are. They will come for you ultimately once they see the eyeballs. So I think the way we package things is very important here if we don't take that seriously. Hence why, Izuchukwu, you need to take us through, because you just gave us a beautiful presentation with Golvia. And look, it's one thing for you to want to see me. It's another thing for me to also want to see you. Somebody says, oh, mentor me. I also must be willing to want to mentor you. So there must be an agreement. And I kind of saw this and I was quite impressed. And the question is, what was the gap you saw that made you decide Golvia will be the bridge for it?
Okay, thank you so much. It might sound funny, but growing up, I wanted to do sports. As a young chap, if not that I started adding weight, I'm a very good, I still play ball till tomorrow. So in the space of working in Zenith, I was able to travel to several African countries, and I see a lot of young Africans, into sports. They can do very well. They play these sports at their different local area. They enjoy doing it. They are better. They could be like the Messis of tomorrow. But there's no light on them. And most of them will grow up and they will end up not being seen. Their talent will just go off. Now, the sports market is also fragmented, whereby people have to pay a lot to get that visibility. And our purchasing power in Nigeria is very, very lean. So it really got to me that, okay, since I could not follow up with my own dreams because no platform was available then, why don't I give young Nigerians and young Africans the right platform to score their dream goals and become visible? So these are the key things that were at the heart of building Golvia. Then I looked at how the existing media platforms work, and I see power in it, especially TikTok. There's a lot of revenue that can come out of it. And in the banking sector, I learned something: copy. All the banks, they are selling the same products, and we have so many banks. And what I did was I called my few team and we sat down, we copied, and I can tell you that it's working. It's working. So if we can spotlight these Africans from the grassroots level, we are going to be solving a lot of economic problems in Nigeria, because there will be a means of revenue creation for these ones, and they will be able to take care of basic needs, and there will be a lot of crimes who leave the ecosystem in Nigeria.
Excellent. Can we put our hands together for that, please? All right. So, Sandra, very quickly, private sector, with their involvement in sports in Nigeria, there's a need to, we had the first edition of the Lagos City Marathon, the second edition, and I'm sure for each time we're done with one edition, you look at and say, how do we scale this up? How can we scale this up? How can this be bigger? How can this be better? How do you think private sector can actually scale up on international events?
So I'll start by, if you look at the global sports system, most of the money used to fund sports are from private sector. So I would answer this question in 3 dimensions. First, everybody has a part to play, including you and I. Last December, despite the resistance we faced, so for this room, let me clear it now. Lagos Liga is a private-owned system. It's not the government. I know the Lagos in front might be a bit confusing. We faced a lot of resistance, even those we did not foresee. And instead of people in the system frustrating our efforts, our investment, both human and financial wise, I think the government can make these things more flexible for us as investors in this Nigerian sports system. So the government should create an enabling environment and also they could incentivize some systems for us. And I'm grateful for Lagos State Sports Commission, because from the angle of Lagos Liga, we received some support from them. And also, as Nilaya Sports, everybody knows Lagos City Marathon as a Nilaya product. It's to a large extent, if we did not have the backing of the Lagos State government through the Lagos State Sports Commission, we may not be able to overcome the challenges we make. So I say governments are big players, well, not on the business side, but on the environment side, creating that environment for us. And also, this goes to the media. The media control is the mind. Is what you put out there that people consume. What story are we telling those that want to invest in this ecosystem? On this seat, I think I've been here since morning, and I've heard a lot of people say, oh, sport is this, sport is that. We've really highlighted the cons of the industry. What message is that passing across to those that are viewing this conference from the outside? Sport is this, sport is that. There's a lot that can be adjusted, but let's not be blinded to what has been achieved also. I think we also need to start highlighting the positivity in the system. Someone mentioned merchandising of local leagues. If the local club cannot sell their own merch, there are other businesses that have stepped up to bridge that gap. Does anyone here know about Fancified, Get Fancified? Yes, anywhere you are in the world, through the Get Fancified, you can get any Nigerian jersey, not limited to football alone. So these are the strides that have been there, that have been made possible by individuals like you and I. So there are problems in the system, yes. But what are we doing to solve this as an individual, as a company? We want investment in the sports system. We've seen what has happened with Remo Stars. We've seen that with Sporting Lagos. Sporting Lagos changed the face of local league with their media. Every club in Nigeria now is taking their media, their digital media seriously because of what Sporting Lagos has been able to achieve. So what are we doing? What story are we putting out there? We want investment, but are we going to get this investment by demarketing the sport where you want people to invest? Government can do a lot, yes, but we also need to play our part. So I think that answers the question that how do we bring investment into the system, right? So we all need to come together, play our part. As much as we highlight the negative, let's also applaud the positive. Every business has its own risk. When Nilaya Sports was started, I'm sure the founder foresaw this risk, but he still went in there. And today, he has the only gold labeled marathon in Nigeria. And not only that, he has also groomed several others to be able to independently start their own races. So what happens when you tell the right story? It's okay to criticize. It's very good. Let us criticize. But we also need to stay updated. Nilaya Sports has several events for the year. We need to create a calendar and push it out there for people to be able to understand that this is happening there. But when you demarket this sport, what story are you telling our potential sponsors? How can we bring the public the best when we keep the market? So I think we can do a lot. There are a lot of challenges, but also a lot of improvements have been made. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. And I want to believe when you talk about the marketing, it's not on the part of the owners of the property. Because ultimately, I feel it is what you give the audience, that is what they will feed off. So if you give them positivity, they will feed off your positivity. If they hear about negative things, they will feed off it. So if I hear you clearly, I'm hearing you say, as an owner of a brand, you must be mindful if you're going to scale up, of how you present that brand.
Awesome.
I also hear you say government participation is also very key if you actually want to do this, and the right partnership goes a long way. Sharif, because we're looking to round up the next 3-4 minutes, let's talk about the role of international partnership in developing Nigeria's combat sports ecosystem. How do you see this alignment coming through?
Really, with the partnership with the international body for combat sports in Nigeria is really, really, really important, because really we are not really interested in combat sports in Nigeria, and basically the international partners are actually the ones still making the combat sports still thrive in Nigeria. Say, for example, I'm going to use Sambo and Judo as an example. Sambo is a very premium sport, which is very, very expensive. To get a gi for our athletes, to get a gi of a judo gi now, it's with the cut of the exchange range is going to about 50,000 naira, and the facility infrastructure, that dojo, we only have one dojo in Lagos, and that's a Yaba. And looking at that community where that dojo is, where we have the dojo, look at the community, a lot of young kids that actually want to do judo. They can't even afford the gi. They've not even eaten, and they go and afford a gi of 50,000. So mostly these kids get to do these sports with the international partner intervention by supporting with gi. Their used kids abroad, they send it down and all of that. And basically, international competition, then these international partners are basically the one bankrolling, like allowing our athletes and coaches to have trainings and international exposure and competition. I'll give a case study of what happened recently. A judo coach that's so proud, like some of them call themselves professor of judo, professor of that, and I was able to facilitate with the international partners to attend a world championship. And a coach that has been in the coach for over 30 something years, and took 2 athletes for a world championship. They were just the warming room, and this guy has never seen that kind of someone that have never even been to Cotonou for competition, and was able to attend a world championship in Astana. And they were in a warming room, and this is a place whereby nobody's going to speak to you. All the athletes will be in a room, and it's just screen. And when it's time for your athletes, in Nigeria or whatever, when it's time for your athlete to come on the podium, on the mat, the screen will just pop up. And because of exposure, the same professor, the coach of judo, was not even familiar with the screen, but he has never been there because seen that kind of have that kind of exposure. And the athletes, they missed the fight. They were calling because it's pop up on the screen and the warm up. The guy is not familiar with that kind of system, and they didn't compete. So the international partnership, the partners are basically the one giving our athletes and our coaches exposure and a platform to train with world class athletes, fighters, and give them the best of exposures, like the familiar with so they get all of those exposure and training and meet best coaches in the world and come down here to train and do all of, because we are not back here, we are not really interested in combat sport. There's nobody that is investing, even the government. So it takes basically individuals that basically help the combat sport to thrive in Nigeria, get them international competition, attend international competition, because nobody's interested, nobody's ready to send any athlete for any international Judo didn't even go to the Olympics. They didn't make it, because you need to attend certain international competition to get point to be able to have score point for Olympics. So nobody was able to fund that. We've got people saying they want to be federation president, but they don't have the fund, the capacity to even send all of those athletes to attend those international competition to be able to meet points for Olympics. So it's basically the international intervention that could help most of our athletes. The blind, one of the Lagos State was able to produce the only blind sambist in Africa, the only blind Zambians in the whole of Africa to attend the World Championship. It was an intervention of an international partner that was able to fund the guy to attend that World Championship. So basically, it's a very, very important, because without international partnership, the combat sport cannot strive in Nigeria.
We must say a very big thank you to the international bodies that fund and are supporting, sending subvention to the judokas here in Nigeria. I can imagine the coach and his athletes in the waiting room, and they are there, they were waiting, oh, it's popping, it's popping, it's popping, it's popping. I say, because that's what they're used to. They're used to Otiyao. You know, but I agree with you. Exposure plays a huge role, and those are the things we all need to look out for. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point P, time T, moment M, we will pause our thoughts here and take some questions. Just one note, Abayomi, you again. They say Abayomi say we should pause you. We will take two. Okay, we'll take that gentleman's hand over there. And this boss man here, apparently in this room, now women plenty pass. No? Okay. So we'll take that. Abayomi, you've done your own. You are doing too much. You are doing too much.
Please, straight to the question. Please, no part A, no part B. Just your name and your question. Thank you very much.
That's the gentleman over there. Right there. Yes.
Thank you very much. I mean, this has been a very interesting and exciting session on sports development. Mine is not a question. Mine is just a comment to contribute to what we have said so far. And I think we need to clear certain things here about government participation in sports and the private sector. The government participation in sport is very, very important, especially at the grassroots level and at the amateur level, which is not business focused at that level. It is the elite sports that should be privately managed and organized purely for business. And that is how the sports hierarchy works. At the grassroots level, you have the major involvement of government. It's more of social, not profit, non-profit, non-business, but more of participation. Then you graduate to the amateur level. You still need the government support at that amateur level and other corporate organizations. But when you get to the elite level of sports, that is when it is purely business and it is meant for the private sector. And the problem we have in this country is that we have confused both the amateur, the grassroots, and the elite sports. That's where the real confusion lies. We need a proper separation. When you separate it properly, then you know the people that should focus on grassroots, not the man focusing on grassroots, focusing on elite sports. He has no business with elite sports. So with that clear demarcation, I think from there we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you very kindly. And I think it's a good thing you pointed out very, very clearly. We seem to confuse that a lot, hence why we are looking for sponsors to take some under 15s and grassroots to some international, and there's nothing wrong with that. But now we seem to be offended when that doesn't come in. Whereas how it should actually apply is when the government applies all this opportunity grants that comes in is meant to build the grassroots. So let's get your name.
Oh, the name is Alan Raji Said, a governing board member of the Lagos State Sports Commission. And the first questions, about two questions per se, to the organizers. Let me quickly thank them for hosting this. And Mr. Tayo, please, is it possible for us to have a communique for this conference? Mr. Tayo, is it possible we have a communique for this conference? Because my thought is this: if we can have or send a strong delegation of this communique to the National Sports Commission to include one or two of these, our agreed discourse here. One, the concession because I believe the governments have actually played their little role in sports development. We have nothing less than 20 stadia all over the country, state-owned and government-owned, all in Boribond as of now. Is it not possible for us through this platform to send a strong delegation for them to be given a concession to private body? That is one. Two, the issue of media, to you, Mr. Priest, please. We are seriously lagging behind because I want to believe that most of these exposure, most of these our elite athletes are not well exposed, right? It's a return on investment that actually matters. But I think there's still what we call the CSR in sports. We can afford to actually use that platform to equally project most of this our sports. I find it hard to believe, but when I realized that there are even more followers of other sports than football, here in Nigeria, we have more followers of other sports. So why the concentration on football? It's all about media. Please, you can assist us to talk to them. They can use their CSR to support us here. We are a third world country, like you used to call us. So they can use that to assist. Then three, the NILAO. I'm happy to see the representative of NILAO here. But Mr. Atayo, I'm so shocked. I'm not saying, we've been mentioning the name continuously and consistently. Here, Mr. Kulishuname. He was, I'm sure he's still in government. He's a politician. He was a chairman of the local government before now. So once you are there, you are there. The government will need them just like they need you. I expect him to be here as well too and share his personal experience. Remo Star is not here 10 years ago. The stadium in Remo is not there 10 years ago. So that means we have a success story to leverage upon. He needs to come and share those experiences here so that we can know what to do next. Thank you.
Again, another excellent thoughts are coming through there. Excuse me. You people should give me water. Look, I think you said it very clearly. On the media aspect, no, when I'm done. On the media aspect, I feel that unfortunately, what we have as media nowadays, with the advent of social media, doesn't help matters. It's become an all-comers affair. You hear, I don't know if you've ever been to a hospital and you meet someone and said, you're the doctor? Say, yes, I'm a doctor here, and all that stuff. Okay, fine. I guess you studied medicine. Say, no, I didn't study any medicine because I'm a doctor. I will treat you. I know what's wrong with you. Would any one of us here listen to that person? No, you said he's a madman. Unfortunately, in the media space, you have a bunch of people who say they are journalists, but they don't know what journalism is about. All they're doing is say, oh, me, I'm just here for the cruise, I'm just catching cruise and all that stuff. I see what they post, I see how they talk, it's just totally off. And these are the people who you will see at Super Eagles press conference. These are people who have huge following. Because now in social media, you just need to be ridiculously stupid and you will have a good following. It's the world we live in. So if you want something proper, if I say to a brand now, I will give you a media strategy. This one says, this guy now, he has 50,000 followers now. If we just tell him to, that mentality is messed up at the moment. That's the world I'm in now. So I have learned how to evolve. I will not drop the standard. My standard still remains the same. I will deliver on what I need to deliver on. But at the same time, I also need to learn how to ride and cruise. Because you like it or not, you either sink or you swim. That's the world we live in. That is why I have remained relevant for over 25 years. You understand? I've learned how to navigate the waters here. One thing is clear. I told you, I did almost 20 years, football. But now I just decided, you know what? I want to do other sports. I had the privilege of going to watch a Formula One race in Austria. And that was when I decided, I was humbled. I decided football should hold his guns. I saw people, and maybe because of how Europe is so connected. This is Austria, and people were driving in from Germany, from Holland, from France, from all over Europe to come there. People were there 5 days before the race, staying there. give or take, I was asking how many people come. I said, well, little over 250, 300,000 people. I'm like, what? And we're here with the Bugase Sports. There's 90,000 in the stadium. Rubbish. I'm saying physically present. And you look at that and you think, okay, maybe there are more things we need to open our eyes to. And that's when I decided I'm going to start developing other sports. All the values are built over time. I'm going to put the visibility on other sports, take them to the next level. Now I'm hearing about Sambo for the first time. I want to know more about that and see how we can build that with the platform that has been built. Thank you once again, Business Day, for this very, very noble opportunity. I'm very grateful for it, and I'm sure these panelists are also excited about it. I feel we have something brewing here. In a few days, months, years, we never can tell how far this can go. Thank you so much. My panelists, thank you so much. And to everyone, have yourself a great, great afternoon.
Also, can our Chief Sales and Marketing Officer, Mrs. Ijemalde, join in this photograph, please?
Well, that was a very, very delightful conversation.
Very delightful one, I must say.
Yes.
Very insightful, not just delightful.
Exactly. So yeah, our panelists, they spoke on the talent development, branding for digital sports economy. So as we wrap up, I'd just like us to remember that sports isn't just entertainment, it's a big business. The insights and connections we've made today here, it shouldn't just end here. Let's take the discussion forward and let us be parts of the change the Nigerian sports industry needs. Thank you for being here. Thank you to our sponsors, Govia Sports.
Also, thank you very much to every one of you present here today. Would like to really, really thank you. Thank you for starting with us and for ending with us. Also like to thank our sponsors today. Just like it's mentioned, we'd like to thank Govia for being our sponsors for this event, as well as our technical partners, Olaniwu Ajayi. Without you, we wouldn't be here. We'd like to thank you on behalf of Business Day, our publisher, the editor of Business Day. Thank you all, and we hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. My name is Elizabeth Musa, and it's been an honor being your co-host for this event.
And I am Suj, and it's truly been an honor being here today to co-host this event.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.